Hey guys, tonight we're riding across a sea of grass, so vast it could swallow continents. You're not gripping reins, you're part of the horse now, hips swaying with its gait like some leather-clad metronome. The horizon's a blue-gray smudge, no cities, no walls, just you and a dozen messages sewn into your boot lining. Let's be real, if your GPS died here, you'd last 17 minutes before arguing with a vulture over who gets to eat your left knee. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment. Where's your saddle sore adjacent body parked right now? Local time. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Wind scrapes your cheeks raw, but it's the good kind of pain. The type that means you're moving faster than rumor. Your mount's a shaggy gelding bred for this. Its lungs pumping like forge bellows. You know the yam stations dotting these plains aren't just rest stops there. The pulse points of an empire, relays of riders swapping horses every 30 miles, Genghis Khan's medieval internet. Yet, here's the twist, those legendary speed records, probably fueled by fermented mares, milk cocktails. Archaeologists found traces on old Courier flasks, 6% ABV, with a side of histocred. Hoofbeats sync with your heartbeat, thud thud thud, a rhythm older than stirrups. You're carrying tax reports, wedding announcements, a plea for sheepskin mittens from some frostbitten general. No sealed scrolls, just words memorized and folded into a hummed tune. Lose the message, lose your tongue. Literally, historians still argue whether the penalty was enforced by dagger or a particularly vindictive horsebite. Dusk comes lavender and sudden. You spot the next station, a felt-lined jur puffing chimney smoke. No doors to knock on, just whistling through your teeth, so the watchdogs don't mistake you for wolf meat. The handler's daughter tosses you a dried apricot, her palms stained blue from crushing gentian flowers. For the eyes, she says. You pocket it, wondering if empire building runs on scribes, or the snacks of teenage herbalists. Your fresh horse smells of rain and turned earth. You mount legs protesting like overstrung bows and vanish into the inkwell night. Somewhere ahead, a border dispute waits to be soothed. A trade routes hiccup, needing a courier's lullaby. Behind you nothing, but a kicked-up plume of dust dissolving into stars. The steppe's silence isn't empty, it's listening. And right now, it's listening to you. Your saddlebags sag with scrolls wrapped in oiled sheepskin. 23 letters whisper of grain taxes and marriage proposals. Leather creaks as you adjust your seat, smelling that signature Mongol postal ink. Made from mashed blackberries and charred yak bones, stickier than a toddler's fingers. Night slips its cold hands under your sleeves. You click twice. Your mare speeds up without reins tugging. They bred these horses to dance to tongue sounds, you know. Least, that's what the stable master swore before your first ride. No swords here, just bamboo cases stuffed with diplomatic niceties. Historians found records of relay stations every 30 miles. Gotta love the yam system. Still, nobody knows why riders looped raven feathers through bridles. Maybe silence, maybe superstition. Your mare's sporting 3 today. Ink bleeds through your thumb wrappings, staining like a lovesick poet's journal. Should have taken that scribe's advice about wearing gloves. The wax seal on Kublai's latest edict feels warmer than your cheeks. Wonder if palace scribes ever get paper cuts from power. You dismount where the snow's thinnest, kneeling to let your horse breathe. Her nostrils flare at your hair. You both reek of frozen grass. She gets the last strip of dried mutton as apology. Yes, princes, even your urgent decrees wait for snack time. Route maps hide in your left boot, 18 turns memorized by rhyme. Rivers east, fox den west, aim where hawk nests rest. Could you carve it into a tree if ambushed? Maybe. Historians still argue whether winter couriers used snow itself as ink. The steppe keeps its secrets tighter than a spice merchant's purse. Moonlight turns your horse into a blue-shadowed giant. You count vertebrae under her frosted coat, more reliable than stars tonight. That myth about mares sweating blood. Total nonsense. But sweat does freeze into ruby droplets by dawn. Your fingers cramp around a tin of mare's milk. The first sip tastes like someone filtered moonlight through sheep's wool. Second sips, warmth pools in your belly, making friends with hunger. Third sips for the horse, you trickle it onto her oats. A lone wolf's howl stitches the horizon together. Your mare's ears swivel like compass needles. You scribble the direction instinctively. They'll want to know about predators near the Ural River. Maybe add a doodle. The Khan's clerks do love doodles. You find the next way station by its lichen-stained pillars. The station master's daughter runs out, already unwrapping your numb feet. Her thumbs press acrid salve into your arches without asking. Smart kid, 20 years from now, she'll probably be running this outpost. Snow begins again as you remount each flake a burning sting. The mare's mane collects them like terrible life choices. She flicks her head, soaking your chest with meltwater. Fine. At least one of you enjoys this weather. Dawn's 3 hours off when your eyes start drifting. So you sing the ballad of the tea-drinking tortoise, or whatever. Melodies about slow creatures feel extra ironic at a gallop. The horse joins in with her own snorty harmonies, empire building through duets. Write that down for the scholars. Your shadow stretches ahead, a black cutout against pearl gray steppe. For one breath, you're a giant striding over sleeping kingdoms. Then the sun coughs up proper light, shrinking you back to bone-tired Courier. At the salted lake crossing, you pause, letting the mare lick mineral crust. She deserves it. Without her, you're just some ink-fingered nerd shouting at crows. You press your forehead to her neck, breathing in library smells. Wax, wet paper, distant thunderstorms. The last scroll warms against your ribs as villages wake. Children wave from yurt doors, sticky with breakfast goat cheese. You toss them a honey stick, nicked from the last checkpoint. Couriers don't get statues, but might as well earn future bards' songs. Wind steals your hat 3 miles from the capital. The mare slows, barely masking her judgment as you chase the damn thing. Worth it, though. Frostbite's worse than looking foolish. A crow flies off with your makeshift comb paying the feather tax. Smoke plumes ahead signal the Khan's breakfast fires. You wipe ink smudges across your cheeks, war paint for paperwork warriors. The mare's hooves find cobblestones as gates screech open. Both of you straighten spines, because even messengers deserve a little drama. Rain turns steppe dirt into wet clay, every hoof depression a stamped seal. You swing down reading dried mud's ridges like scribbled margin notes. That one's a totter scout stallion. Those shallow dents mark a lame pack ox. Your fingertips trace patterns older than Genghis's grandfather. Mongol relay riders developed this, decoding routes from animal tracks when trails vanished. Mainstream textbooks skip that part. Too busy praising our barbarian efficiency. Your mare sniffs a particular Chinese letter, her ears pricking forward. You trust her nose over yours. Horses detect old urine markers better than hounds. A drizzle starts, blurring yesterday's prints into Rorschach smudges. Time for plan B. You dismount, pressing your bare cheek to mud. Feels like cold pudding. Cooler patches mean underground springs. Warmer patches hint buried campfires. Historians still argue whether riders used body heat maps or just vibes. Either way, you pivot northeast. Your horse balks, refusing a perfectly good slope. Then you spot it. Burnt wormhood stalks underfoot, an ancient danger glyph. Landslides love these hills after storms. Smart girl. You reward her with a walnut from your emergency stash. Nightfall brings fog so thick you navigate by cricket chirps. Their pitch rises near water. 10 years ago, a drunk courier swore they'd lead him to a widow's yurt. Took 3 days to find his horse. The crickets stayed quiet. Dawn reveals a meadow glittering with false trails, deer tracks, fox scratches, marmot highways. You kneel, sifting dirt through your fingers. Aha! Hidden beneath paw prints, circular grooves from relay station wagon wheels. 3 grooves mean fresh horses available. Your mare's tail flicks, announcing visitors. A wild Kulan herd gallops past, their hooves etching chaos into your precious map. No matter. You memorize their gait's cadence instead. Steppe ponies step lighter. When predators prowl, these ones sound carefree. Safe passage. Hunger turns your stomach into a misstrung fiddle. You munch dried apples, counting horse apples instead. 5 piles mean recent cavalry movements, all berry-filled. Cavalry steeds eat better than you. Typical. Rain returns, erasing the world beyond your saddle. But your hands remember. Left palm maps the last hour's bumps. Right fingers tally raven caws. Navigation by braille and bird call. The mare snorts approval, shaking her mane into a wet curtain. A cracked sheep anklet bone glints in mud placed forecup. Station master code for detour south. You sigh, adding 3 hours to your route. At least the warning wasn't a skull. Small mercies. Mud slicks your reins as you skirt a ravine. The mare's hooves skitter, finding purchase through memory alone. She's trodden this path before you 18 times. 20. Her muscles whisper secrets your maps never recorded. You pause where 5 trails braid, each promising shelter. Your boothiel prods the ground. Hollow echo. Old plague pit. Next candidate. Rockier soil near a birch grove. Solid. Northern tribes bury their honored dead with quartz chunks. The soil stays firm for centuries. Smart ancestors. Twilight brings snowmelt rivers gnawing at cliffs. Your mare chooses the narrowest crossing, hooves clicking on submerged stones. You close your eyes, trusting her to feel the path. 18 steps, 19, 20. Her relieved snort echoes off canyon walls. At the summit, you spot smoke curls through sleet. Not campfires. Beehive ovens from a postal station. 3 chimneys mean a senior clerk in residence. Maybe he'll have decent tea. Maybe he'll rant about Kublai's new tax stamps. Either way, it's dry. Your horse nudges your knee, her nostrils flaring at the scent of charred barley. She knows the routine. Warm stable. Salt licks. A full trough. You press your forehead to hers, murmuring promises of apple cores. The last mile's always a negotiation. Mud cascades off your boots as you dismount. The station master's apprentice appears, already inspecting your mare's soles for embedded messages. Smart kid. They've started tattooing 4 depths on geldings' gums nowadays. Never underestimate teenage ingenuity. You collapse onto a felt rug, listening to rain rewrite the steppe outside. Tomorrow's hoofprints will whisper different secrets. Tonight, let the fire's crackle untangle your knotted spine. The mare sneezes twice in her stall. Translation. Sleep now, poet. The mud isn't going anywhere. The station's hearth smells of burnt thyme and wet dog better than yesterday's yak cheese incident. A pot-bellied clerk thrusts a clay bowl into your hands. Fermented mare's milk sloshes over your thumb, its sour tang cutting through the mud stink. 3 sips in your toes uncurl like thawing caterpillars. Across the fire, a Tuvan trader demonstrates fox whistle mating calls between gulps of arag. His audience, a Kyrgyz shepherdess mending socks, and 3 postal grooms bedding dried apricots. Broke 3 ribs once, chasing that falsetto across the Altai, he croaks. The shepherdess snorts, threading wool through a bone needle. Men always blame foxes for their bad decisions. Relay stations stored salt and dried fruit, but the real currency is gossip. The clerk grabs your sleeve, breath reeking of pickled garlic, Karakorum's buzzing. They say Ojde's grandson collects dancing bears now. You counter with last week's rumor, a Chinese envoy caught bribing camels with sugar lumps. Historians love debating the yam system's speed. Most ignore these nightly truth-bending contests. Did imperial tutors really tie math lessons to racing pigeons? Unlikely, but you've seen station kids tally yak milk faster than abacus beads. The shepherdess slides you a felt-wrapped parcel, still warm. Inside, a griddle cake, oozing honeyed curds. For fixing Batar's saddle sores, she murmurs. Her palms bear the telltale scorch marks, those who knead dough on hot stones. You trade her a sliver of sea-green jade, plucked from a smuggler's saddle last autumn. A teenager staggers in cradling a squealing marmot. Crushed leg, he pants. Fixable. You probe the tiny limb, splinting it with birch twigs and stirrup leather strips. The grooms stop gambling, watching your fingers work. 20 years ago, this would have been dinner. Now it's a lesson on tibias. Midnight brings a weathered crone, her deal's hem crusted with river silt. Without asking, she commandeers the hearth's corner. The room hushes as she unpacks a stone flute. Its melody coils like smoke, dropping octaves into bear growl lows. One groom's eyes dampen, though he'll blame the wood smoke tomorrow. You trade the clerk your last pepper for his secret map drawn on sheep bladder. His ink, charcoal mixed with wolf urine. Lasts longer in rain, he insists. You don't ask how he knows. Some questions survival-based sarcasm can't fix. The Tuvan, now buzzed on camel vodka, swears he smuggled lynx cubs inside loot cases. Sing them lullabies. They purr through border checks. The shepherdess mutters something about Darwin Awards, Steppe edition. You pocket the phrase for future use. Dawn approaches its light, greasing the eastern windows. The marmots splint holds. The grooms owe you 7 apricots and 1 suspiciously affectionate goat. You decline both. Station policy. Never accept livestock you can't outrun. Outside, the mare glares at her new companion, a bow-legged pony stamped with red dye. Temporary swap, the clerk yawns. Your girl needs new shoes, take Tepel. He's allergic to wolves. You'll know. Tepel sneezes on your hair twice before noon, confirming the allergy quirk. His trot feels like riding a barrel downhill, but his stamina's legendary. Supposedly carried a pregnant librarian to Samarkand while she drafted star charts. You doubt the math, but respect the hustle. The shepherdess appears at the gate, her sleeves flapping like crane wings. She throws a seed cake at your chest. For the vultures, she deadpans. You catch it, knowing it's really for the next hungry soul. Tepel chooses a shortcut through willow thickets, snapping branches with macho enthusiasm. A crushed wasp nest clings to his mane. You consider warning him about karma. His smug ear twitch says he's already planning revenge. By dusk, you're sharing cured perch with a Nestorian monk. He's translating Aristotle into Uyghur using a recycled campaign scroll. The unexamined life isn't worth documenting, he quips. His donkey carries ink pots in hollowed-out yak's horns. The 13th century's answer to travel mugs. Fireflies blink around your bedroll, living punctuation for the monk's ramblings. He claims Genghis once pardoned a spy because of elegant penmanship. You bury a smirk. Empire building through calligraphy critiques. Now, there's a fresh syllabus for history professors. Tepel's snores vibrate through the ground, a bass line to the monk's droning psalms. Your last thought before sleep. Thank heaven for allergic ponies. Without their drama, you'd just be another bureaucrat on horseback. The river's growl reaches you first, a throaty rumble deeper than Tepel's allergy sneezes. You dismount, boots sinking into frozen mud that crackles like old bones. Tepel snorts at the water, allergy-twitching nostrils, judging its moral character. Historians love debating Mongol river tactics, rafts, ford lines, secret bridges. You prefer the old way. Follow silver flashes. A trout leaps, its arc tracing the underwater shelf safe from rapids. 3 more jump in sequence. Nature's breadcrumb trail east. Your mare's hooves crunch through ice, each step spraying diamond dust. The Empire's relay stations hugged rivers for speed, the official reason, at least. Unofficially, messenger lore claims water spirits hate iron. Hence your felt-lined stirrups, no metal to offend the currents. Tepel hesitates, hocks trembling as the frigid water laps his knees. You murmur the river's secret name taught by a drunk ferryman. Ikshafklin, mother of melted glaciers. His ears prick forward, whether from the title or hypothermia's approach. Midstream, the current grabs your calves like icy fingers. You toss a dried apricot upstream as tribute. It spins 3 times before vanishing, a good omen. The shepherdess's seed cake disintegrates in your pocket, turning the water momentarily sweet. That's when you spot them, pale stones stacked beneath the surface. Not natural, not random. A submerged cairn from the kitten Couriers, centuries older than Genghis' empire. Archaeologists would weep over these soggy GPS markers. You kick Tepel's ribs, veering left around a deceptively calm eddy. Legends claim Kublai once lost 30 messengers here. Their ghosts still brag about outswimming sturgeons. You're less poetic. Sloshing into shallows, you gag on the stench of waterlogged horsehair. Tepel shakes himself like a malfunctioning laundry drum, soaking your already frozen trousers. The far bank's mud tells stories. 12 hoofprints, fresh, unshod. Official couriers ride shod horses. Smugglers, deserters. You trace a crescent-shaped scar in the soil. Someone's knife drew the Tangut moon glyph. A warning or invitation. Tepel finds the cache first, nose butting a hollow log beneath willow roots. Inside, oilskin packets of millet and a squirrel skin quiver. Station protocol. Take what you need, leave something useful. You swap your last pepper pouch for a bronze fishhook. Let the next traveler argue with trout. Drying your boots by a smuggler's fire pit, you spot carvings on a birch trunk. Not Turkic runes, not Chinese characters. 3 looping spirals, the same pattern tattooed on that Nestorian monk's wrist weeks back. Coincidence, missionary graffiti. You snap a twig, adding it to the ashes. Historians still argue whether river rituals were spiritual or just smart cold water coping. Your chattering teeth vote both. Tepel nuzzles your nape, snot freezing your collar. His breath smells suspiciously of fermented apples. That explains the heroic forward speed. Nightfall brings fog and a distant drumming rhythm. Not hooves, not war chants. Looms, a riverside village, thrives just beyond the mist. Their welcome committee. 2 girls slapping sodden felt blankets against rocks. You recognize the beat, Mongol postal cadence disguised as laundry work. Clever, their grandmother feeds you sour yogurt soup, watching your hands for seal-making signs. You flash a harmless trader's palm instead. Her snort says she's sniffer than station clerks. Rest here, she insists, pointing to a stable reeking of show dung. Bandits follow the cuckoo's cry tonight. You obey mostly to thaw your toes. The show's body heat almost masks the muffled screams downstream. Almost. Tepel chews his hay extra loud, DIY noise cancellation. By dawn, the river runs faintly pink. You don't ask. They don't explain. The grandmother gifts you a leech preserved in honey for bad blood days. You pocket it, thinking of the clerk's wolf piss map, steppe medicine equal parts, folk wisdom and creative hallucination. Sunrise catches you squinting at swirling shallows. A submerged branch mimics a water serpent until it blinks. You toss a griddle crumb, 6 golden eyes surface, then vanish. 20 years riding, you've never solved the fish versus spirit debate. Tepel sneezes at the next tributary, his snot freezing into a tiny arrow shape. Pointing northeast, you follow. Horsemanship is 90%, ignoring your mount's questionable life choices. The earth slopes upward, gravel crunching, with the sound of grinding teeth. Last night's storm washed the trail clean, no hoofprints, no cairns, just a single threaded needle stabbed into a poplar trunk. The shepherdess's work. She did mention a sister near the Annan River headwaters. Your canteen's nearly empty, but morning frost coats every blade of grass. You press a wool blanket against the stems, squeezing muddy drops into your palm. Improvised dew harvesting. Genghis. Scouts survived weeks like this, striding between raindrops and luck. By midday, you're sipping birch sap and sketching the horizon's jagged spine. The Kentii Mountains, Genghis, childhood playground. Somewhere in those peaks, the empire's first saddle was stitched from wolf hide and stubbornness. Tepel startles at his own shadow, nearly trampling a pile of prayer stones. Nestled among them, a fox skull draped in crumbling silk. Standard trail magic. You add a jade bead to the shrine because even spirits appreciate a little bling. The wind shifts, carrying the ashy tang of distant campfires. Census data claims this valley's uninhabited. Census takers clearly skipped the part about smoke signals. You veer west, letting Tepel's allergy sneezes crescendo as you exit the spirit's favorite drainage ditch. Moonrise finds you mimicking owl hoots, a postal code for friendly approach. The answering call comes from a teenager knee-deep in frozen marsh. His horse, a sway-backed gelding with Corkin tribute markings, lost the salt caravan, he mumbles, offering a rusted compass in exchange for directions. You decline the compass, but trace tomorrow's path in the mud with his stirrup. He stares like it's the first alphabet he's ever seen. Maybe it is. Empire building tends to skip literacy programs. As he rides north, you spot the missing salt sacks lashed to his saddle. Clever brat. Survival always trumps honesty on unpatrolled trails. Tepel nibbles your sleeve, demanding appreciation for his own flawless criminal record. By the time stars pinprick the sky, you're ankle deep in a hot spring. Sulfur stings your nose, but your muscles unknot like wet yarn. Letters rust in their oilskin tube. For tonight, let Kublai's edicts wait. Even imperial couriers deserve to prune. Tepel drinks from the spring, sneezing bubbles across the surface. His allergies flaring again, or maybe he's just mocking your shriveled toes. Either way, you've earned this ache. Rivers crossed, spirits bribed. Another day's ink dried on the steppes' endless scroll. The hot spring's sulfur stink clings as clouds smother the stars. Your world shrinks to Tepel's wheezing and crackling ice. You hum the Altan Kukur, ancient crimson melody, fingers drumming the rhythm on your saddle's wolf-head pommel. Tepel's ears twitch backward, forward, sideways, equine semaphore for sing louder or I bolt. Historian footnote: Genghis ordered all couriers to memorize 36 calming chants. Number 7's banned in 3 provinces, proven to hypnotize yak herds into stampeding toward opera houses. Your version skips the high notes unless you fancy meeting tomorrow's sunrise mid-tumble. A snow hare freezes nearby, its twitching nose sinking to your beat. You toss it a pine nut. It scampers, kicking up powder that glitters like crushed mirrors. Legends say moonlight gets trapped under winter's first snowfall. You're just glad something's glowing tonight. The mare's breathing deepens her ribs, swelling against your legs like bellows. Official courier manuals called this equine resonant harmony. Horsemen knew better. A board mounts quicker to spook at shadows. You switch to the ballad of burnt hooves, a ditty about a drunk farrier and a jealous camel. Tepel snorts his version of a laugh. Or maybe he's mocking your off-key vibrato. Debate that over Ereg later. No stars mean no navigation, so you rely on older guides. Wind scours your left cheek raw, the west wind's signature move. Frozen reeds hiss the andante from throat singing at world's edge. You steer toward the sound, ignoring 3 suspiciously round boulders that definitely weren't there yesterday. A distant howl splits the darkness, too shrill for wolves. Tepel doesn't flinch. Good sign. Bad sign. The Yam Relay Network trained dogs to mimic wolf cries as territorial markers. Or maybe it's just Cousin Badu's mangy husky, lost since the great sheep dip fiasco. You dismount, boots sinking into snow that squeaks like ungreased cartwheels. Time for the pouch. The musk deer leather bundle holds 6 sticks of pressed incense, horsetail resin, and dried juniper. Court astrologers burned these during eclipses. You light one against a frozen birch, watching smoke coil into spiral hymns. Tepel sneezes, sending the ash swirl into a perfect map of the Kentii foothills. A sign, a sneeze. You memorize it anyway. Divine cartography beats celestial guesswork. The mare's nostrils flare, she's caught a scent. Not grass, not wolves. Turmeric, you squint northeast. A flicker campfire or fox eyes. 3 quick chants later, you're following the aroma of singed lamb fat. Hospitality or trap? Your empty stomach votes yes. The fire pit's still smoldering, surrounded by 7 bronze bowls crusted with cumin seeds. Bandits carry pewter. This was a postal relay snack stop, abandoned mid-meal. You pocket a chopstick carved with twin cormorants, Nagai traders, calling cards. Historians still argue whether these sticks encoded frost warnings or fish prices. Tepel paws at a snowdrift, unearthing a felt doll with blue pearl eyes. A child's toy, an amulet. Its embroidered apron shows the Ulgi Altai mountain range in silver thread. Exact longitude. You tuck it into your sash, payment for the chopstick. Trail karma demands balance. Moonless hours stretch the cold gnawing your joints. You switch to the song that splits ice, a melody so shrill locals blame it for glacier cracks. Tepel's mane frosts into white streaks. His breath ghosts form lyrics only foals understand. Dawn teases the horizon, gray smudges, revealing a landmark. The stone that weeps, granite pocked with salt crystals that cry at midday thaw. Half a day's ride west. You've overshot by 19 miles. Tepel flicks his tail, equine for my bad, but you're the one who can't carry a tune. You check the sun-bleached prayer flags tied to your stirrup, their fading inks whispering of elevation shifts. Yellow silk means thin air ahead. Purple for hail. Today's forecast. All crimson, wind burn and questionable choices. The mare halts, snorting at a cairn crowned with a cracked horse skull. Your scribe's instinct counts the stone layers, 8 for plague years, 3 for good harvests. The skull's teeth hold a scrap of parchment. Rain-smeared Uyghur script, 1 legible word. Ambush. You pocket it anyway, scraps make good kindling. Or future blackmail. The Kentii peaks loom closer, their ridges sharp as unopened scrolls. Somewhere in those crags, Genghis, wet nurse's great-grandson, runs a black market tea caravan. Family traditions die hard. Snowflakes begin their lazy descent, each one patterned with hexagonal secrets. You catch 3 on your tongue, tasting cloud dust and yesterday's regrets. Tepel snaps at a 4th, then sneezes it into oblivion. So much for winter divination. By midday, you're weaving through basalt columns that hum in the wind. Natural Aeolian harps. Postal writers call them Tiengrai's lyre, though you're pretty sure the gods prefer less screechy instruments. Tepel's hooves tap out a counter rhythm, his allergy drip syncing with the melody. The columns part, revealing a valley thick with wild mint. 24 geldings graze, their left ears notched with imperial crescents. Relay station mounts, abandoned, stolen. You count fresh dung piles 8, all facing northwest. A stinky compass. Tepel wallows in the mint, staining his coat peppermint green. You collect a handful of leaves. The station master's wife adores tea that tastes like victory and dental hygiene. The perfect camp spot beckons, a south-facing ledge with lichen cushions. But the relay manual's clear. Never nap where mint overwhelms wolf stench. You retreat uphill, hammock strung between stunted pines. Dozing off, you realize the hum wasn't wind through stones. A rider materializes, gray gelding, patched cloak, eyes hidden by smoked quartz lenses. Her saddlebags drip with icicles shaped like torture implements. She tosses you a bundled lamb heart, still steaming. For the ghosts, she rasps, vanishing before you ask which ghosts. Tepel eyes the offering. You lob it into the valley, where shadows lap at the meat like thirsty dogs. Night falls properly now, the cold so intense it sculpts your breath into ice daggers. You trudge back to the mint field, cupping hands around a firepot's weak glow. Official yam regulations list unauthorized campfires as a flogging offense. Let them add frostbite survival to the charge sheet. The flames spit, casting Rorschach shapes that dance with the basalt's drone. Tepel's head droops, lips fluttering in dream gallops. You carve tomorrow's route into a birch slab, using a fox claw found in your boot. Sleep comes as a grudging truce, the stars still hiding, the songs still humming, the mare's warmth a fragile shield against the steppes' vast indifference. Dawn claws at your eyelids with crystalline fingers, last night's frost gluing lashes shut. You pry them open, blinking away ice fragments shaped like miniature saddles. Tepel's already standing hooves, stamping the imperial anthem on frozen turf. The ritual begins with tea, not the fragrant brick kind emperors sip, but a sludge of fermented barley and charred elk tendon. You gag it down, knowing today's ride demands limber joints. Historians credit Genghis, relay stations, with mandatory rest periods every 20 miles, though none mention the real torture chugging this bitter swill. Stretching comes next, palms flat against permafrost while arching your spine skyward. Postal manuals depict this as homage to the Earth's curvature. You call it not wanting herniated discs at 30, left hip pops, a sound like stepping on frozen sheep dung. Tepel mimics your stance, forelegs splayed in a yoga pose. Only drunken camels attempt. Breakfast's a haphazard affair, dried cloudberries fished from your boot lining, and a thumb-sized cheese, wedge harder than Mongol law. You offer Tepel the rind. He crunches it, flaring nostrils suggesting you owe him 3 sugar cubes at the next outpost. The real work starts with hoof care. His left forefoot's frog shows a bruise, purple squiggles, mirroring yesterday's mountain passes. You spread a poultice of wormhood and rancid butter, the station master's wife's cure for everything except bad decisions. Tepel tries to lick it off. You distract him with an off-key rendition of the ballad of the ticklish blacksmith. Scientists still debate whether Mongol horses' footpad calluses evolved naturally or grew from centuries spent kicking couriers who applied questionable salves. Noon brings the sun's weak apology, gilding your saddle's wolf-head pommel. You unroll the medicine kit, checking dwindling supplies. 3 mummified leeches for bloodletting. A vulture's clavicle excellent for scratching map coordinates into birch bark, and the prize, a jade vial of snow leopard bile pilfered from a shaman's tomb. You dab some under your nostrils, its ammonia punch clearing sinuses better than a yak sneeze. Your spine demands a second round of stretches, this time the crouching marmot pose. Knees to chest, forehead touching scuffed boots. The manual of equine posture claims this realigns messenger Kai with ley lines. You just hope it stops your left knee from clicking like an abacus. A rustle interrupts. Tepel's tail swishing at a vole tunneling beneath your bedroll. You toss it a cloudberry pit truce offering. It squeaks what might be thanks, or rodent curses. Historians still argue whether Mongol couriers trained voles as micro-spies, though the Great Vole Treaty of 1218 suggests some diplomacy occurred. Twilight rituals simplest, tepid water from your skin bag poured over wrists and temples. Evaporation steals the liquid before it hits the ground, a magic trick the steppes performed for eons. You imagine ancestors laughing as you scrub armpits with mint leaves bathing, defined loosely here. Tepel nudges your shoulder, sniffing for hidden apples. His breath smells of yesterday's juniper smoke and existential despair. You fish out his nose bag, mixing oats with a sprinkle of powdered deer antler. Strength for the next marathon of hooves and bad decisions. The last chores weapon maintenance, though your arsenal's just a gutting knife and a slingshot. You test the sling's elastic with a pebble, firing it at a large cone. Miss by 3 feet. Tepel flicks an ear, equine eye roll. Sleep comes in stolen slices, back propped against saddlebags, legs angled to avoid pressure sores. Dreams arrive as fever flashes, galloping through honey-thick air, a Khan's ghost, demanding you recite poetry backwards. Tepel, morphing into a giant shrew demanding tribute in raisins. Midnight jerks you awake, muscles screaming, breath sawing through lungs. The medicine kit's spilled leech corpses forming an arrow pointing northeast. Coincidence. Instructions. You pocket 2 anyway emergency rations if the vole betrays you. Dawn's second attempt succeeds, golden light revealing your camp's been ransacked. Torn saddle blanket stolen, cheese, a perfect circle of melted snow where your fire pot sat. Tepel's unharmed, though his smug expression hints he allowed the theft. You kneel to repack supplies, fingers brushing something cold, a jade hairpin etched with cranes in flight. Not yours. Payment. Warning. The station master's wife collects these. You'll add it to her shrine of gifts from clueless riders. Final stretch, literally. The heron's side pose, standing on one leg while rotating the ankle. Balance falters. You topple into Tepel's flank. He exhales sharply, a sigh saying you're lucky you carry the sugar cubes. The horizon beckons, jagged peaks wearing cloud toupees. You check Tepel's girth strap. Its wolf tooth clasps icy to the touch. He nips your elbow, the horseman's alarm clock. One last swig of rancid tea. One last vertebra crack. One last muttered prayer to the god children swarm like starlings descending, their grubby fingers plucking at your salt-crusted sleeves. Did the emperor's camel really eat a whole yurt? One demands, a girl, with braids wrapped in wolf fur. You dismount, kneeling to her eye level, not the whole tent, just the felt door. Turns out camels prefer wool over mutton. Elders materialize from smoke-blackened yurts, bearing lacquer trays piled with frozen curds. Their leader's belt jingles with rusted keys, each marking decades, managing this story trading post. You unclip your own satchel, offering the weekly imperial bulletins. Thin parchment crackles, detailing tax reforms, and wolf calls, dry reading, snorts the keymaster, tossing scrolls to a scribe. He taps his temple. Better tailies live here, stories even the emperor's censors can't prick. You bargain 3 frontier legends for a fresh horsehair quill. The historical fact slips in seamless. Mongol messengers often carried hollow arrows containing urgent missives, a secret you demonstrate by snapping open a replica shaft. Gasps erupt. A toddler tugs your boot, pressing a grimy reed flute into your palm. Sing about the moon dragon. His nose glistens suspiciously. You improvise, weaving a ballad about a celestial serpent who hoarded comet dust, sneezing shooting stars. Halfway through, you realize 6 grown herdsmen have joined the circle, knitting socks while nodding along. The quirky tidbit surfaces between verses. Anthropologists once found a 14th century child's mitten in Siberia, stuffed with fermented cricket husks, used as trading currency. You mention this while pocketing walnut-sized cheese wheels, payment for tomorrow's ride. Night falls, bruising the sky plum dark. A grandmother drags you to her hearth, her iron kettle bubbling with controversy. True or false, she croaks, stirring mutton stew. Did Kublai's couriers really glue falcon feathers to their eyeballs to see farther? You nearly choke. Historians still argue whether Mongol vision enhancement rituals were medicinal or just drunken dares gone epic. Trade escalates. You swap your last ink block for a bottle of eternal wakefulness, which smells suspiciously like pickled horse sweat. The elders demand a ghost story, something to rattle their youngest great-grandchild. You recount the legend of Barry, the sleepwalking archer, whose spirit still knocks phantom arrows along the Chinese border. Dawn finds you delirious, having sung 18 ballads and arm-wrestled a blacksmith's widow. Tepel looks pampered, mane braided with cerulean ribbons, belly stuffed with sacrificial oats. The children present their final offer, a squirrel skull necklace, in exchange for one last tale. You cave. Ever hear how messenger horses learned to count? They shake their heads, eyes reflecting bonfire remnants. Genghis stallions could tally miles by the stars, snorting once for each day's ride left. It's bullshit, but their awe sparkles brighter than the Andromeda rumor chain. As you depart, the key master presses a walnut into your palm. Inside, a scroll fragment accusing a Yuan dynasty prince of smuggling sheep, disguised as concubines. You tuck it beside the emperor's dull tax reforms, evidence that history's juiciest secrets travel light. Tepel picks up his pace, sensing sugar cube bribes at the next relay. Behind you, the village shrinks into the horizon. But their stories cling like burrs, itching to be retold at the next trading post where parchment's cheap. But legends reign supreme. You shoulder into the blizzard's frothing maw each step deeper into the howling white. Tepel's ears flatten, his neck feathers quivering like compass needles drunk on magnetic fields. Goose down lashed to your bridle dances wild, a frantic semaphore only couriers understand. Experts say Mongol riders tied goose plumes to bridles, reading their tremors like maps. You test the theory now, squinting at feathers thrashing left. Yank the reins hard, just before Tepel's hoof grazes empty air. A cliff's breath gusts upward, spitting ice teeth against your numb cheeks. The storm devours color, reducing the world to a lunging gray beast. Your oiled leather goggles fog, forcing you to navigate by chin against mane. Tepel's gait changes, a subtle telegraphing of buried streams and sinkholes. Snow creaks beneath his hooves, an ominous orchestra tuning up. Archaeologists once found crane feathers in a courier's tomb, still caked in permafrost, and verses from the secret history. Yours flap with less poetry, stiffened by frozen snot and desperation. You dismantle a glove with your teeth, threading hairs from Tepel's tail through the veins. 5 hours in hallucinations creep. Drift shadows become charging tigers. Ice crystals morph into floating cities. Your canteen's mead freezes solid, forcing you to suck snow like a newborn foal. Historians still argue whether these feather codes were sacred rituals or just efficient weather hacking. Tepel stumbles, and suddenly you're both riding an avalanche of your own making. Feathers whip vertical, screaming danger in a language older than saddles. You spot the rhythm, 3 jerks left, 2 right, dig heels into ribs, wrestle the reins like breaking a wild stallion. The slide stops your knees jarring against stone hidden beneath snow's false mattress. Tepel trembles, steam rising from his flanks like a spirit leaving water. You press your forehead to his sharing breath in the eye of the storm. A lull comes brief as a mouse's prayer. You spot a cairn ahead, its stones stacked by dead couriers for living ones. feathers go slack, storm's fury spent, dismounting hurts, all your joints crackling like green wood in flames. Tepel noses the cairn, uncovering a leather pouch left 6 winters past. Inside, millet cakes fossilized by time, and a dog-eared map drawn on birch bark. You trace the route with a blistered thumb, smirking at a crude drawing of a pregnant marmot. Messages fade, but messenger humor survives. The storm's aftershocks wail, begging you to linger. Tepel nips your collar, urgency in his yellowed teeth. You recheck the feathers, now pointing northeast with fresh certainty. Dawn remains hours off, but the horse knows, mile by frozen mile, you become a ghost between blizzards, carrying secrets even snow can't bury. The horizon finally bleeds pewter, revealing a valley veined with fox tracks. Smoke coils upward from a hunter's hut, its roof sagging under ice armor. You smile, steering Tepel downhill. Hot blood pulses in your fingertips, or maybe that's the frostbite talking. Either way, the next chapter smells like charred elk fat and bad decisions. Tepel's muzzle drips meltwater onto the hut's earthen floor, steam rising from his coat like a confession. The hunter tosses a charred elk bone into the fire, its grease hissing a welcome. You kneel by the flames, deaf to his offers of fatty marrow. Your fingers comb through the straw underfoot, searching for early shoots only couriers recognize. Historians will later call this pasture cognition, reading grass to predict winter's cruelty. You call it survival. 5 blade splits mean mild snows, 3 forks signal ice, storms that snap yurt poles. Tonight's sample shows 4, a mystery scribbled in cellulose. The hunter's son inches closer, watching you sort stems like a scribe with scrolls. His grubby finger points at a bent shoot. Ghost stepped there. You snort, tossing the stalk into the flames. Worse, a pregnant marmot took a midnight piss. The boy's giggle warms the hut better than any fire. Your knife scrapes lichen off the wall, charting grass cycles for their herd. The hunter squints, recording each symbol in soot above his doorway. Generations of couriers taught this, linking steppe families through hoof-bitten pastures. Some tribes still tie camel hair to stalks, tracking growth spurts like battlefield reports. Dawn leaks through the hut's smoke hole. The boy, now snoring against Tepel's fetlock. You pocket a twisted root, insurance against fevers when the next blizzard gnaws. The hunter presses a goatskin into your hands, salt rhyming its mouth like hoarfrost. For the grass counting, he grunts. You trade him a dried persimmon, its sweetness worth 10 warnings of frost. Outside, the valley exhales mist through its frozen teeth. Tepel's hooves crack ice puddles, their patterns echoing the shoot counts in your memory. You halt at a slope where earth bulges like a fresh grave. Kneeling, you press an ear to soil that thrums like a sleeping mare's flank. 5 summers back, a courier friend showed you how roots grown before droughts. Today's vibration speaks of underground streams, their courses shifting like nervous horses. You mark the spot with a cairn of elk knuckles. Next season's herders will bless your name. A red kite circles its shadow, stitching the steppe. You count its dives, 3 quick plunges, meaning hares run thick to the east. Tepel flicks his ears, already tasting greener grass. Your thighs clench, noting how his gait avoids certain tussocks. Experts once found a Tuvan saddle pad stuffed with barley shoots, dated to Genghis's reign. Historians still argue whether we stored grass samples or just enjoyed stuffing our pants with scratchy snacks. You smirk, adjusting the lichen maps in your sleeve. Let them debate. You've got blizzards to outrun. Noon finds you dismounted, cheek pressed to a windswept knoll. Ants tickle your earlobe, their frantic march, confirming the thaw's depth. You roll onto your back, counting cloudbellas the color of bruised plums. 3 hours till snow, plenty of time to reach the willow grove. Tepel grazes his lips, peeling back to avoid biting bitter wormhood. You mimic him, plucking a shoot to chew. The sap bursts tart, a promise of early springs. Your teeth separate fibers, counting lignin layers like tree rings. 17, a number that makes you spit. Rumor says Kublai's messengers planted rye grass along major routes, emergency feed for the Khan's words. You found their patches, marked by stones shaped like sleeping badgers. This valley's crop grows thin, sapped by locusts or lazy apprentices. You carve a warning into a poplar trunk, 3 vertical slashes, and a doodle of bursting seed pods. The next courier will understand. Maybe leave an extra salt brick for the soil. Twilight comes the sky, bleeding through its bandages of cloud. You water Tepel at a spring that reeks of iron, its surface oily with minerals. A frog croaks, its swollen throat pulsing like a dying man's fist. You count the intervals between rasps, 9 seconds apart. Rain's coming, but gentle. Tepel shakes his mane, sprinkling you with droplets that taste of old coins. You inhale, sorting the scents of sodden earth and distant lightning. Somewhere ahead, a mare snorts at the storm. Your fingers twitch, ready to count blades in new grass, whisper forecasts to riders who'll never know your name. Your thumb traces circles on Tepel's neck, repeating the chancellor's words through touch. Each rotation presses a vowel into sweat-damp fur, your skin becoming parchment. No bandit could steal. The moon hangs cracked like a dropped writer's inkstone. You hum the message's rhythm, matching cadence to hoofbeats, so neither stumbles. Scholars will later find carvings at post stations, gear counts, and grazing tallies. None decode the real secret, how we turned edicts into lullabies. A ditty about spotted mares carries tax quotas. A ballad of lost rings encodes troop movements. Your favorite trick, sneaking invasion, plans into wedding vows. A marmot shrieks, its cry overlapping the Khan's third demand. You halt mid-verse, Tepel's ear twitch, confirming you skipped a syllable. Start again, this time graft the warnings onto a childbirth chant. The trick's older than paper. Couriers once mimicked cuckoo calls to pass border checks. Two horsemen emerge ahead, their silhouettes sharp as freshly split bamboo. Your throat tightens around the melody, fingers still stroking directives into Tepel's mane. One rider bears the tiger paw banner, the Khan's auditors, hungry for mistakes, recite the Yek Curie edict. Snaps the left one, his breath reeking of pickled onions. You dismount, kneeling as protocol demands. But instead of speaking, you tap 3 stones in quick succession. The rhythm matches a tavern song from Karakoram, syllables slotting into place, their eyes narrow, counting beats against some mental ledger. The right auditor hums along, then nods. Your horse has a lameness. He lies, throwing his voice eastward. A coded pardon, they'll report your limping mare delayed the message. Historians still argue whether our tunes held real ciphers or just jogged faulty memories. Let them debate. You've got a love ballad to finish before dawn. 10 more miles, and the message switches to a dirge about widowed cranes. You pass a nest of shrike birds, their thorn-spiked, larder-dangling mouse carcasses. A memory twitches. The chancellor specified 30 ropes of silver coins. But the song demands alliterative ease, 30 shining serpents. It becomes treasury clerks will curse your creativity. Tepel snorts at a vulture circling, something dead ahead. You reroute, adding 3 extra verses about detouring crows. Each word stretches the message's legs, padding its core with decorative lies. The finest couriers leave poems in their wake, imperial archivists weeping over misplaced metaphors. Nightfall brings a traitor's crossroads, each path named for a failed rebellion. You choose the route that rhymes with betrayal's cost, ignoring the shorter trail. Melody dictates direction, here geography, bending to syllable count. A swift river disrupts your meter, forcing improvised lines about loose tongues drowning. By midnight, the message has mutated. What began as tax hikes now sings of blue wolves mourning their mate. No matter, the receiver knows to distill truth from melody's dregs. Their scribes will siphon numbers from your vibrato, decades of training, decoding pitch-perfect troop counts. You spot the recipient's camp, its fire smoke weaving gray ribbons. One final check humming through clenched teeth, miss a single note and villages starve. Tepel nickers, correcting your flattened third intonation. Of course the horse remembers better. The camp elder emerges, his ear cocked like a sparrow's. You deliver the last verses sotto voce, the tune fracturing into clicks and whistles. He blinks once, processing fiscal policy disguised as a shearing song. A smile cracks his weathered face. Tell the Khan his metaphor for grain store stinks. As you depart, the elder's granddaughter slips you a honeycomb. Her fingers brush yours, a fleeting warmth holding no secrets. You'll gift it to the next checkpoint guard, sweetness greasing the wheels of wordless requests. Tepel's hooves already tap the opening beats of tomorrow's dispatch, a ballad about a drunken camel. Dawn finds you counting Tepel's breaths. Instead of miles, each Exhale a mile marker. Your thighs memorize the sway, left, right, left, until gallop becomes a pendulum's hypnotic tick. Horizon lines smear, golden grasses dissolving into streaming light. You've entered the courier's trance, where time knots around steady rhythms. Relay stations blur past, fresh horses materializing without breaking stride. A bay mare replaces Tepel, her shoulders already damp from the last rider. The swap takes 6 shared breaths. You're gone before stable boys finish scratching tally marks. Your new mount's gait feels jagged, all hiccups and stutters. You fix it, humming until her hooves sync with your pulse. 9th century waykeepers called this the bone song, synchronizing beast and rider through shaman's chants. Modern scholars smirk until they try trotting across fractured steppe. The sun bleeds westward, yet your shadow stays fixed ahead. Trick of the terrain, or yesterday's fermented mare milk, doesn't matter. You've learned to steer by the smell of thawing permafrost, sour green clues scoring latitudes. A cracked sheep rib hangs from your saddle tied there by that laughing widow at Curvescurl Lake. Each jostle ticks off minutes. 30 cracks equal 1 rest stop. Archaeologists found hundreds of these in Courier graves, still debating if they were timers or talismans. You just appreciate not squinting at shadows. Rivers become stopwatches. Ford 3, earn a gulp of arag. The third stream today mirrors your face. A stranger's eyes stare back. When did you last sleep upright? No matter. Night brings 9th winds, those slicing gales that scrub moonlight into a glare. You whisper coordinates to the mare, latitude numbers hidden in a herding rhyme. Her ears flick agreement, or maybe she's swatting midges. Either way, your path stays true. The real map's etched in her muscle memory. Anyway, ancestral trails hummed through placental blood. Hour blurs into hour, your mind unravels like poorly spun yarn. Memories surface, uninvited, that squeaky princeling, demanding velvet-trapped scrolls. The reek of jurs burned during the market raids. You shake them loose, focus on the mare's black mane, parting like a river. A fledgling falcon spirals past, its maiden flight mirroring your first solo run. You hiss the courier's salute, Currock, Currock, same sound mothers make rocking colts. The bird shrieks back, a pocket rebellion against open sky. Half a day song later, you spot limestone outcrops shaped like slumbering camels. The signal for the Blue Rock Remount Depot. 2 handlers jog forward, stinking of salve and impatience. They read your posture before you dismount, already leading out a dun gelding. He bolts at wolf howls, warns a gap-toothed handler, tossing you a water bladder. You test the gelding's ribs, firm, well-rested. His nostrils flare at your scent, foreign, yet familiar. A few murmured lines about willow buds calm him, always works with the skittish ones. Historians still argue whether we timed roots via camel's breath or star rotations. Fools. Every courier knows the true measure, how many songs fit between sunrise and frost. Your new mount chews the bit, eager to prove his speed. You let him surge, but rein back to that perfect middle gallop. Too fast burns reserves, too slow lets doubt creep in. The sweet spot, when ground and sky hum the same note, shadows stretch into violet threads. You count 19 breaths smelling of snowberries, winter's scouts, testing autumn's grip. A bull marmot blocks the trail, belly swollen with stolen grain. You detour, adding a verse about thieving rodents to the message. Let tax collectors decode that metaphor. By moonrise, the landscape sheds its colors. Everything becomes texture, the lick of wind through dry reeds, the gelding's heat against your calves, the click, click, click of that damned sheep rib, mile after mile folds into your joints, a topography of aches. The gelding stumbles, you jolt awake. Drifting's the real danger here. Time to switch tactics. You count pressing sounds instead, 7 cricket chirps, 14 grasshoppers, 3 bats hunting moths, an old trick from the Buddhist station masters. They swore sensory, tallying purified focus. Dew soaks your leggings, the gelding's muzzle drips silver. Dawn's close now. You've crossed 7 watersheds without drinking tongue swollen into a leather pouch. No matter. The next station brews pine needle tea, bitter stuff that staves off sleep. A familiar screech pierces the haze, that fledgling falcon again. It wheels overhead, leading you southwest. You follow despite the detour, instinct overriding orders. The bird lands atop a cairn, its talons gripping a scrap of blue silk, flown off course. Maybe. But you collect the cloth anyway, knotting it into the gelding's bridle. If it's a love token from some other courier, their problem. If it's a warning, well, storms smell different than peace. The falcon shrieks once more, a serrated sound, and vanishes. You touch the silk, its dye smells of crushed mallow flowers. A woman's scent or a trap. Either way, you've got its measure now. Sunlight claws over eastern hills, too bright, too loud. Your eyes water, but the gelding finds his 6th wind. You ride the surge, lips moving in silent recitation. Somewhere ahead, a hot meal and colder truths await. You pretend not to hear the cuckoo's distorted cry, 3 short, 1 long. No official signal that. Just ghosts of couriers past, mocking those still bound to the living. The gelding's ears twitch. He hears them too. The cuckoo's cry fades, leaving your ears ringing with phantom hoofbeats. You smell rot before seeing the gorge wet timber and rusted fears. The bridge dangles, slats snapped like a drunkard's smile. 13 farmers materialize, mud-caked hands outstretched. Salt sacks by new moon, their elder states, no greeting, no pleas. His calloused thumb points upstream, a goat path clinging to shale. You nod once, no contracts here, just the weight of your courier's sash cutting into collarbones. Detour adds half a sun's march. The gelding balks, snorting at pebbles, skittering into the abyss. You dismount, boots finding purchase in ancestors' footholds. 2 centuries back, Kublai's engineers built 7 bridges here. Sheep ate the tax ledgers, or so village tailies claim. A child offers dried apricots, sticky fingers brushing your reins. 3 generations since the last courier fell, she chirps. Her father pales, but you pocket the fruit anyway. Sweetness distracts from the drop yawning below. Farmers shadow your climb, ready to snatch the gelding's bridle if he slips. Trust earned through braided horsehair belts, their wives wove yours last spring. Salt's the currency, yes, but kinship's what oils the wheels. Topside brings no respite. The trail's gone feral, thorn bushes clawing at leggings. You count 17 scratches before reaching the ford. The elder reappears, swapping directions for a palm-sized salt brick. For the baby's first meat, he explains. No arguments. Historians still debate whether the yam roots relied on loyalty or terror. You know better, it's the click of a latch-free door as you pass. The hiss of milk boiling over a shared fire. Gelding's ears swivel, spotting the ambush before you do. Bandits. No, just village youths tossing knuckle bones by the diverted trail. They scramble up, offering wolf pelts as saddle blankets. You decline with a herder's hand sign, 2 fingers brushing forehead. Their laughter follows, sharp but harmless. Dusk paints the steppe violet. You spot the salt caravan, a chain of hunched shadows near horizon's lip rock. The head drover flashes a finger twist greeting, same one used in Karakoram's spice markets. Your promised sacks wait, wrapped in felt to muffle clinks. No time to linger. The gelding noses the salt, snorting at its bite. You tie 2 sacks behind the saddle, their bulk mocking the Empire's light penalties for delayed messages. Let scholars parse scrolls about tax reforms. You'll trust salt to mend bridges. Moonrise finds you back en route, thighs burning from the detour. A solo wolf howls, the gelding tenses, but holds pace. Good, salt's no use if your mount bolts into shadows. You whisper the names of each farmer, binding their faces to memory. Trust's a ledger, always balanced in the end. Lose a name, lose a life when rivers swell. Near midnight, the gelding's snort alerts you. 7 marmots block the trail, cheeks fat with stolen grain. You scatter them with a thrown salt crystal, their greed outracing dignity. The crunch beneath hooves tastes like justice. Dawn's first blush reveals the relay station, smoke curling like lazy fingers. The station master inspects your salt-stained saddlebags and snorts. Bribing entire villages again. You shrug, tossing him an apricot pit from the gorge. He pockets it, bestowing fresh horses. New mounts, a flea-bitten gray, eyes wise to every shortcut. You rub salt into her bit, a peace offering. She licks your palm, rough tongue, erasing old debts. The road ahead shimmers, heathens and honesty mingling in the dust. Your word hangs heavier today, swollen with promises to both living and dead. You adjust the salt sacks, their weight a creed older than empires. Falcons circle high above, eyeing your cargo. Let them. Even sky thieves know better than to steal a courier's sworn burden. Hoofbeats sync with your pulse again. Bridges may break, but the steppe remembers every kept vow. Ravens mock the falcons, earlier spirals, their croaks, sandpapering the afternoon calm. You toss a mutton scrap left from last night's meal, half prayer, half experiment. 3 black shapes dive, wings hissing like unstrung bows. Historians love debating whether the Khans truly used corvids as scouts. You've seen maps stitched with crow quills, but here's the truth. Watch how the boldest bird veers northwest, its path cutting the wind at a coward's angle. Spring lies that way, or wolves. The lead raven gulps your offering, then drops a horse molar in return. You pocket the yellowed tooth. Payment. Warning. Either way, it's lighter than a gilt. Gelding sniffs your hand, nostrils flaring at the meat residue. Not for you, you murmur, wiping fingers on his mane. Steppe scholars swear ravens avoided ponies carrying the plague. You've never tested it, though once. A sick mare's trough stayed crow-free for days. Today's birds flock closer, their all-sheen feathers reflecting your face 80 times over. Small comfort. 2 stretch ahead, black arrows against cloudbank. 1 circles back, croaking what might be an all-clear or hex. You click your tongue twice, same sound used to call lazy herding dogs. The raven tilts its head, then mimics the noise with unsettling accuracy. Gelding's ears flatten. You count wing beats between rasping cries. 16 strokes mean water, 27 spells danger. The math rarely works, but counting steadies your hands when trails turn vague. 1 feathered shadow leads you to a seep spring, muddy bubbles beneath cracked limestone. Gelding drinks greedily. You spot wolf tracks, 2 days old, pocked by recent rain. Safe enough. The raven perches on your saddle horn, beak clacking. Still hungry, you offer your last scrap. It snatches the meat, flicking an iridescent feather into your lap. Barter complete, it vanishes. Some claim Genghis Khan decreed ravens sacred after they pecked enemy scouts' eyes mid-battle. You doubt it, but toss an extra offering when passing their roosts. Cheap insurance against pecked-out corneas. Dusk brings the Herplex monument, weather-worn stones arranged like a forgotten game. Local legend says it's a raven airport. You've seen them perched there, preening like emperors. Tonight silent. Wind shifts. Gelding stiffens, smelling what you now hear. Whimpers echo from the stones. A wolf pup leg trapped in a rusty iron snare. Its eyes reflect your torch, drowning in dumb pain. Ravens materialize, perched on neighboring boulders. Jury, audience. You brace the pup's head, feeling its pulse flutter against your palm. The snare's ancient, likely from Timur's invasion. Stupid way to die for both predator and prey. Your dagger parts the metal. The pup flees, limping into shadows. Ravens caw approval or disgust. Either way, you're down 1 blade. Now the debate. Mongol messengers carried wound salves, but for steeds or themselves, you smear yarrow paste on your torn palm, wrapping it with a temple offering scarf. The gelding eyes your bandage, nostrils flaring. Not contagious, you promise. Midnight finds you rehearsing the elder's water chant, lips moving soundlessly. Ravens roost nearby, their sleep squawks threading through verses. Once a beak tugs your hair. You swat nothing, the bird already airborne. Cheeky thief. Dawn reveals fresh problems. 4 foxtail shrubs lie uprooted, arranged in a crude arrow. Ravens hop nearby, pecking at the pattern. You've seen this once before the spring your aunt vanished near Samarkand. Follow the flora. The gelding resists, scenting sulfur. You dismount, boot sinking into warm earth. Hot springs hum beneath thin crust. Ravens whirl overhead, leading you along steam vents. Trust beak over map here. By midday, a Karakoram patrol waves you down. Their captain examines your travel papers, lingering on the wolf blood stains. Ravens circle his helmet, dropping twigs. He returns your scrolls hastily. One soldier whispers, "They're marking him." You pretend not to hear, offering the youngest warrior a raven feather. His grin says he'll survive the next battle. Historians still argue whether these birds were trained or just opportunistic. Let them. You've got 9 feathers tucked in your sash now, each a borrowed life. The road ahead smells of snow. Gelding's breath plumes faster, sensing the climb. Ravens escort you to the pass's threshold, then scatter like cinders. Their job's done. You murmur thanks anyway, tossing dried currants where they perched. Wind sweeps the offering away. No matter. The debt's acknowledged. Ice crusts the trail, hoofprints filling with blue shadow. You dismount, leading the gelding over glassy stone. Ravens taught you this. Always check reflections before trusting solid ground. A feather drifts past, caught in an updraft. You watch it rise until your neck aches. Higher than any arrow. Higher than regrets. The gelding nudges your back, impatient. Onward, the next valley's smoke already smudging the horizon. 3 riders approach, their lance tips glinting. Friend or foe, doesn't matter. You've got witnesses overhead. 14 black shapes coasting on thermals, ready to scribe your fate in evening sky. Blizzard's first breath freezes the ravens, cause midair, icicles of sound, shattering on stone. The approaching riders raise mittened hands, 3 blurry shadows in the whiteout. You answer with the all-courier hail, a 2-note whistle like a snow lark's broken song. Their leader's beard crackles, with frost each word steaming Morse code. Urgent for Karakoram. You run, your scroll case wheezes open frozen wax, snapping like old bones. The parchment inside crumbles at the edges, ink crystals blooming where words should be. You touch a flake to your tongue, tasting pine sap and politics. Summer census reports, you lie. Imperial couriers were trained to hold 50 verses in mind, lips moving even in sleep. Their youngest rider sways, frostbite gnawing his nose black. You toss him a musk, deer gland, still warm from your belt pouch. He tucks it under his hat like a kiss. Rub it hourly. You shout over the howling wind. Some riders swore by wolf's bile, daubed on tongues to prevent slurring. You prefer gullibility. The patrol thunders east, hooves kicking up ice ghosts. Your gelding nuzzles your collar, seeking the honeyed oat cakes he knows you're saving. Not yet, you whisper, snapping the reins. Blizzards reshuffle trails, but the cold remembers. Dusk claws the sky purple. You find the cairn, a pile of skulls cemented by centuries of freeze-thaw cycles. Press your ear against the largest one. Faint echoes hum, maybe buried rivers, maybe dead scholars' debates. Fingernails split as you dig, unearthing a bronze message tube green with age. Inside, a birch bark strip scrawled with Uyghur script. Beware the honeyed envoy. Too late. You met him at the last relay. Nightfall demands fire. You break a temple candle into thirds. The sacred beeswax catches slow, but burns true. Heat resurrects your frozen inkstone, revealing a half-formed edict. Connate grain reserves. N.A.L. Auge West. The characters blur water from your eyelashes, smudging the dire news. A marmot's shrill scream pierces the gloom. Your gelding startles, hoof skidding on ice. You drop the scroll, it skitters into darkness like a living thing. Cursing, you fumble for the reins. The candle gutters, plunging everything into starless void. 2 breaths. 5. Then your training kicks in. You sing the tax report into the gale stanza by stammering stanza. Frost feathers your lips, each number emerging as a white plume. Great Khans demanded songs. For this very reason, throat memory outlasting parchment. Snowmelt drips into your collar, a brief thaw. You catch a droplet on your knife, hold it over the candle. In the distorted reflection, a fortress flag emerges. Northwest, 3 days hard riding. The message reshapes itself, liquid truth. Moonrise finds you bargaining with tree spirits. A larch offers scant shelter, its trunk etched with ancient traveler marks. You add your own, a raven picked clean to bones. The wind moans through dead branches, almost human, almost laughing. Crows track you at dawn, 6 ragged judges. You scatter millet, stained with your blood payment for their silence. They feast, then spiral westward. A lone straggler drops a fish scale at your feet. You pocket it, currency where coins freeze to cheeks. The storm relents at noon, revealing a herder's tombstone. Its inscriptions worn smooth, but your palm reads the grooves. Here lies Bilge, who sang directions until ice filled her lungs. You leave a honey cake on the slab, stealing 3 icicles for thirst. Hunger twists reality. The 8th icicle tastes of sea salt, impossible this far inland. Hallucination or memory. That summer you rode with pearl divers, their leather purses heavy with ocean's teeth. The gelding knickers, bumping your knee. Focus. A frozen waterfall glints ahead, its surface scarred by recent pickaxes. Karakoto traders mined ice for desert caravans, hauling winter into summer. You chip off a chunk, sucking it like hard candy. Cold sears your molars, painfully clarifying. Your voice cracks during the 9th recital. Blood spots the snow, ruby punctuation. The gelding eyes the drops, instinct warring with training. You hum a lullaby, fingers gripping his mane, until the vertigo passes. Stars blaze through the ice haze, Cygnus pointing northeast. You realign despite the map's insistence. Celestial shifts plagued Kublai's astrologers, their silk charts redrawn weekly. Tonight, you trust duck migrations over dead men's calculations. Dawn's first light catches you mid-chant, breath weaving tax quotas into a birthing song. A pregnant mare answers from distant hills, her cries stitching your notes into sense. The message coheres, swollen and inevitable. You reach the relay post at zenith, lips cracked but moving. The station chief leans close, ear almost touching your mouth. His scribe's fingers dance, capturing each gasped syllable. The resulting scroll will never mention your frozen toes or the raven now nesting in your hood. Scholars still argue whether frozen messages were buried for later retrieval or just abandoned as ice coffins. Let them theorize. You're already 10 li west, sucking stewed ginger from a trader's flask. The next storm greets you by name, howling it through every threadbare layer. Your mare's breath hangs milky in the dawn, a frozen veil between living steps and memory. That cairn ahead isn't stone, it's armor plates stacked by long-dead smiths. Your fingers brush a lamellar vest's remnants, still reeking of rancid horse glue. Official policy demands burning undeliverable scrolls, but the wind here whispers berry. The saddlebag groans as you extract its burden. A bamboo tube capped with silver lotus motifs. Inside, 37 letters for a general who fell at Zhangdu. His bones fertilize Chinese orchards now, yet his tent still stands here. Ghost linen flaps in the breeze, threadbare but stubborn. You kneel, placing the tube where his pillow once lay. A marmot's skull winks from the ground, its hollow sockets crusted with salt. Historians still argue whether these ghost camps were memorials or just trash heaps for superstitious riders. You know better. You've seen fresh horse dung steaming at sites last used centuries prior. Your thumb rubs the faint scar on your wrist, earned delivering a love poem to a queen's empty throne. This time, no weeping courtiers, just a lone wolf snout poking through the tent's rear seam. It huffs, unimpressed by imperial seals. You unspool the topmost letter, its silk wrapping torn by some clerk's haste. Court gossip mostly, complaints about Persian astronomers corrupting the air. But that final line snags you. Execute the whispering monks at Wudai Shan. Too late. Their rebellion drowned in blood last autumn. The wolf sneezes. You re-roll the scroll, secure it with a strand of mare's tail hair. Let future diggers debate why couriers kept feeding dead commands to the earth. Your job just delivery, judgment comes free. Wind riffles the bamboo tube, producing a mournful drone. You counter with the standard dismissal hymn, 3 notes held till your ribs ache. A shadow ripples across the tent, too human-shaped for comfort. The wolf bolts, tangling in tent ropes. By noon, you're ankle-deep in a snowmelt creek, scrubbing ink stains from your nails. Fingerprints fade, but the sour tang of orphaned orders lingers. Some riders wear silk gloves to avoid this. You call that cowardice. Let your skin absorb the Empire's sins. It's healthier than swallowing them. The mare jerks her head westward, sensing what you've been ignoring. A thunderhead crouches on the horizon, its underbelly green with malice. You count heartbeats between distant lightning flashes. 16. It'll reach you by moonrise. A ruined watchtower offers paltry shelter, its stairs long since crumbled. You scale the wall's spider-style toes, finding gaps in the fired bricks. At the summit, a surprise. Some romantic fool has left a felt rug and bronze incense burner. Stickier surprise, the rugs patterned with mating dragonflies. You light sandalwood resin stolen from a temple last equinox. Smoke coils into the tower's throat, awakening pigeon ghosts. Their phantom wings fan your face as the storm hits, rain slicing horizontal. The mares tied below, swearing in huff snorts. Dawn reveals 3 new graves downslope, fresh-turned earth, glittering with arrowheads. You pocket a bone die from the smallest mound, protection against intestinal worms. Couriers tip always steal from the recently slain. Their bad luck cancels yours. The storm's aftermath paints the world glassy, every blade of grass frozen mid-bow. Your mare's hooves crack the sky's reflection, a trail of black asterisks. At the next cairn, you add the die to other offerings, a rusted astrolabe, a child's felt boot, a desiccated squid. Sunset finds you at a river crossing, choked with ice corpses, war horses, preserved mid-plunge, their riders still astride, leather armor swollen tight as sausage casings. You relieve one corpse of its mushroom-shaped whistle, test it. The sound startles crows into dropping half a leveret. Supper's meager, but the fire's bright. You sketch moonphase calculations in the frost, error margin 8 days either side. No matter, the next ghost camp lies where the North Star licks the horizon. Sleep comes fitful, haunted by that executed general's final order. His ghostly hand keeps offering a jade ring, which melts into maggots each time you reach. The mare headbutts you awake at intervals, a living alarm against night terrors. By third sunrise, you're singing, weather reports to a family of stoats. They stand sentinel on their hind legs, tiny claws clutching stolen ration barley. Your throat aches, but the song works. The sky stays grudgingly clear. The last cairn's guarded by a stone tortoise, its shell etched with forgotten battle coordinates. You place the final scroll in its mossy mouth, watch paper dissolve in turtle saliva. A scholar once told you these monuments mark underground rivers, but you've seen them wink. Mare's ears swivel northeast, a signal. Time to vanish before the next courier arrives. You leave no tracks, just a single goat hair glove atop the tortoise. Let historians puzzle over that for another century. Hooves strike packed earth in deliberate triplets, left, right, left, then silence. Dust plumes rise like breathing things, each rhythm a tongue older than Sanskrit. Ahead, woven banners sag between poplars. A single rider peels from the shadowline, his bay mount stepping high. Your mare answers with the counter rhythm, 2 beats, pause 3. The bay's ears twitch forward. No arrows fly. Historians agree these cadences stem from Genghis's yam network, gallop patterns, encoding messages across 40 languages. What they miss, the way a canter can taste like apology. The rider circles, close enough to smell his fermented mare's milk breakfast. His eyes flick to your saddle's stitching, counting dispatch seals. You raise empty palms, fingers spread in the old merchant configuration. West sees you throat sing, the phrase vibrating your molars. He snorts, a perfect mimicry of his horse. Your mare snaps her tail, equine diplomacy at work. The standard joke among couriers plays out. He pretends to check your non-existent tribal tattoos. You fake inspect his bridle for imperial bounties. Laughter cracks the tension, as scripted as the hoof codes. His chieftain approaches, bare pelt cloak swallowing frail shoulders. She doesn't dismount. Neither do you. Protocol demands terms stay literally on the same level. You offer third-year census, reports from Samarkand. She counters with Baltic amber nuggets. The barter lasts precisely 7 sentences. Quirky detail, her scribe writes the agreement on a dried sturgeon bladder. It'll hold ink better than parchment if rains come. You've seen Stranger, that magistrate who used live cicadas as wax seals. They gift a smoked reindeer heart, strategically sliced to show no poison. You reciprocate with cinnamon bark from a crushed merchant caravan. Historians still argue whether these exchanges shaped later Silk Road treaties or just emptied saddlebags. Dusk brings the dangerous part, translating gossip. A misplaced eyebrow twitch could spark raids. You report Persian glassblowers fleeing north. She mentions Korean envoys vanished near Lake Baikal. The real currency isn't goods, it's knowing which shadows to avoid. As you depart, her granddaughter offers a horse balm that reeks of fermented roe. You'll dump it discreetly at the next cairn, same as everyone does. The joke's ancient, a test of courier discretion, older than the Great Wall. Night riding feels lighter now, tribal drums echoing your pace. Your thighs throb in time. Might as well be back at Karakoram's postal stations, those endless debates about stirrup lengths. The mare flicks an ear, your cue to stop reminiscing. A wolf chorus howls ahead, or is it scouts signaling? You switch to the lost envoy cadence, hoof falls mimicking a limping deer. 18 breaths later, torchlight wavers through birch trunks. Different tribe, different rules. You'll need the firemaker's grip tonight. By moon high, you're chewing sinew, while their elder mumbles through a mouthful of peat. His tale tangles, something about ice witches and stolen horse souls. You nod, knowing the cure will involve spit and a copper coin. Dawn finds you retracing steps, a rare humiliation. Their directions led to a cliff etched with spiral petroglyphs. No spring, just rock. The mare whickers soft reproach. You resort to the courier's last refuge, following fresh wolf scat upstream. Water holes matter more than pride. The real storm hits at noon, hail stripping leaves like parchment. You shelter under the mare's belly, reciting root mnemonics through chattering teeth. She tolerates this for exactly 43 heartbeats before threatening to roll. When sky clears, you spot them, 5 riders at the ridge, posture taut as drawn bows. Your knuckles cramp around reins. The mare chooses this moment to sneeze, spooking their lead stallion. Chaos unfolds in dust. Their captain approaches, face scarred by old frostbite. You've got 3 breaths to pick a hoof pattern. Samarkand's merchant's plea, useless here. The widowed envoy cadence, too frail. Then it hits, the broken tribute rhythm from your 3rd-year exams. Left hoof drags, deliberate. Right taps twice. The captain stills, head cocked. His gelding echoes the stutter step. Reluctant grins break through. Turns out he trained under your first route master, dead these 12 winters. The shared laugh lasts precisely 6 heartbeats, enough to trade warnings about poisoned wells. No gifts this time, just a finger drawn across throats in mock threat. You mirror it, adding the elbow flick that means joke. They melt into the steppe. Your canteen's down to algae sludge. The mare's tongue works dry. Another courier truth. Peace weighs heavier than war. All those pauses, breaths held between potential bloodshed. You'd rather dodge a dozen ambushes than navigate tribal protocols at dusk. The horizon blurs into the next problem, smoke columns braiding skyward. 3 fires mean either a postal relay or a ransacked caravan. The mare picks up speed without prompting. Either way, there'll be stories needing carrying. You flex ink-stained fingers, ready to memorize. The foals find you first, velvet muzzles, probing saddlebags for hidden apples. Their mothers stand hip-shot nearby, udders swaying like leather flasks. You've stumbled into a midnight milking circle, smoke curling from dung fires as women sing to the mares. Moonlight turns spilt milk blue-white on the grass. A grandmother thrusts a chipped ceramic bowl into your hands, still warm from the mare's flank. Historians praise Mongol arag fermentation, but never mention how the first sip tastes like fermented barnyard. You gag politely. The women cackle, wrinkles deepening like canyon maps. One produces a honeycomb chunk, drizzle it over the curdling surface. They insist. Sweetness battles sour, your throat surrenders both. A toddler toddles over, urine-soaked swaddling cloth in hand. Before you react, she scrubs your bowl clean with it. The grandmother nods approval. Quirky detail, they wipe foals' muzzles with mare piss to prevent scours. You decline the refill. They're already milking your horse. Your mare tolerates it, head drooping as a gangly foal nurses opposite. Squelching rhythms fill the night, streams hitting wooden pails, infants smacking lips, mares swishing tails. Someone drapes a felt blanket over your shoulders. It reeks of lamb fat and lullabies. The debate creeps in slow. Historians still argue whether Arag's slight fermentation offered more calories or just helped couriers endure stench-filled yurts. Your gut suggests both. Girls dribble milk into sleeping babies' mouths. No spillage despite the jostling. A teenager braids your horse's tail with sheep's wool, protection against steppe witches. She mumbles. You've seen this before, 3 moons west, near the Caspian. The matriarch grunts, her palm upturned. Payments due. You offer the standard 3 iron arrowheads and a comb made from lynx bone. She sniffs, demands the honeycomb back. Night deepens. They let you help strain milk through horsehair sieves, though your fingers fumble the knots. The real work happens wordlessly, women's hands darting between udders and pails, knees planted in dung ash for grip. You're just the clumsy audience, forever out of rhythm. A foal headbutts your ribs, demanding chin scratches. Its muzzle feels like sun-warmed suede. The matriarch slaps your wrist. Too much affection makes colts soft. Her slaps gentler than the mare's nipping teeth moments ago. Dawn's first smear graze the east. The women evaporate, pails balanced on hips. Children tied to backs with wolf pelts. You're left clutching a dried sheep's stomach, bloated with arag, their idea of a parting joke. The mare nudges you upright, reins tangled in a parody of decorative knots. Your legs went numb hours ago. Walking it off means wading through knee-high grass jeweled with dew, each step soaking your boots. You drink straight from the sheep's bladder. Regret follows, sour milk, and honey now curdle into something resembling revenge. The mare side-eyes your retching. Grasslands yawn ahead, endless and indifferent. Somewhere beyond that horizon, Karakoram's spires itch for news. Your thighs ache at the thought. But here, now, the arag buzz hums through your teeth. Maybe those fermentation rumors held truth after all. A lark's song shreds the last stars. You mount using a rock worn smooth by countless couriers' boots. The mare farts in tempo with the bird's trills, steppe poetry at its finest. By noon, you'll trade the arag to border guards for a mutton scrap. By dusk, you'll miss its rotten tang. Such is the courier's paradox, always craving what you just ridiculed. The reins sway, crude wool braids slapping the mare's neck. She tolerates the indignity for now. You count heartbeats until she bucks. 19, 20, 20. Oof, sky and earth switch places. You eat dirt again. The women's laughter echoes from nowhere and everywhere. The mare trots circles around you, arag bladder dangling from her teeth like a prize. Peace treaties should include clauses about dignified dismounts. The mare's hooves kick up dust as she prances, arag bladder still mockingly intact. You spit grit, tasting yesterday's fermented milk, and today's humiliation when the earth convulses, grass ripples like a shaken carpet. A gopher erupts from the soil, fleeing straight up your sleeve. The mare plants her legs wide, nostrils flared at the bucking horizon. You cling to her mane as yurts collapse downslope, felt walls folding like laundry. Historians wax poetic about the yam courier routes, but never mention the ground eating those trails whole. Your knees remember last year's quake near Samarkand, when entire way stations slid into sinkholes. A fisher snakes toward you, cracked lips thirsty for horseflesh. You dismount mid-tremor, boots skidding on gravel. The matriarch's voice ghosts through panic. Press your ear to angry earth. Dirt grinds against your cheekbone. Somewhere below, a subterranean river hums. Steppe shamans swore water spirits sang through bedrock, quirky as it sounds. The vibrations do thrum in your jaw, tremors ease. You bum rush the mare across the widening gap, her hooves grazing the edge as it yawns wider. Fringe belief alert. Herders still bury ox shoulder blades at fault lines. They claim the bones twitch before quakes. You've never seen proof, but your stolen gophers now chewing through your belt. The mare halts at a slurping sound. Half the trails melting into mud, spring water breaching the surface. Historians still argue whether Genghis Khan's final breath triggered a quake, or if chroniclers just fancied drama. Right now, you'd believe either. A rockslide buries the eastward path. Detour time. You drop reins. Mongol horses know to graze during delays. She headbutts your spine, demanding the last Arag dregs. Denied. You crawl toward steam vents, signs of geothermal whispers. Your map's useless, so you lick rocks. Salt crusts mean ancient seabeds. Granite flecks hint at nearby mountains. The mare watches, judging harder than Kublai's tax assessors. A fractured yak skull protrudes from the dirt. Compass substitute. Align the horns. With smoke plumes from unseen nomads, your route reshapes. An obstacle course of hot springs and fresh chasms. You collect obsidian shards. The matriarch valued volcanic glass for arrowheads. The mare sneezes at the sulfur stink. Her sneeze echoes weirdly, a hidden cave. Sunset stains the cliffs blood orange. You spot a cleft in the rock, man-made steps chiseled by long-dead couriers. Smart bedrock steadier than topsoil. The mare protests the climb until you bribe her with gopher-gnawed belt leather. At the summit, a stone pillar lists sideways. Its weathered carvings show a rider listening to the ground. Someone chipped a quake survival guide into granite millennia before the Khan's birth. You trace the symbols, instructions on reading seismic groans. The mare paws the ledge, impatient. Below, moonlight reveals a new valley where none existed at dawn. Rivers rerouted. Hills flattened. The earth's fickleness mirrors Khan's shifting alliances. You descend into the freshly birthed landscape each step, sinking into still warm soil. The mare's tail flicks your forehead, vengeance for earlier stinginess. A hot spring gurgles nearby, its geyser erupts as she drinks. She spooks, soaking you in sulfur-scented spray. Karma's a geothermal bitch tonight. By dawn, the tremors fade. You find a splintered trail sign, its arrow pointing diagonally into the sky. The mare nickers, seeming almost amused. You bury the signpost upright for whoever inherits this chaos tomorrow. Your boots squelch with every step mud-caked and reeking of rotten eggs. Somewhere ahead, the silk roads claw through reconstructed terrain. Behind the steppe stitches its wounds in silence. The Arag bladder finally bursts in your saddlebag, drenching spare tunics in rancid sludge. The mare flares her nostrils, stepping daintily around the stench. You're too tired to care. Earthquakes end. Roots mend. Messengers adapt. You hum the matriarch's milking song. The melody syncs with the mare's gait. Cracks in the ground still steam, but your ears no longer press to dirt. Let the next rider ponder underground rivers. You've got blistered feet and a thirst no Arag can quench. The medicine bag slaps your thigh each step, jostling dried yarrow and bladder wrack. 3 herdsmen materialize from the fog, their sheep's wool crusted with abscesses. You sigh, recognizing the suppurating glance they swap, your fingers close around the goatskin pouch, its clinking vials tattooed with soot-hand symbols older than the Khan's first war banner. The eldest herder parts a ewe's matted fleece, revealing festering paw marks. Wolf attack, except no predator leaves wounds this symmetrical. Historians love praising the Erderer postal stations. Few note how often couriers doubled as field medics. You kneel, ignoring the stink of rot, and uncork a jar of fermented mare's milk paste. Quirky bit, Mongol armies used this acidic goo to prevent sepsis centuries before germ theory. The herder recoils as you smear greenish gunk on the gash. Trust the process, you mutter, channeling the matriarch's no-nonsense tone. The ewe's heartbeat thrums against your palm, a frantic drumline beneath wool and fever. Night falls while you work. The youngest herder offers birched vodka. You trade it for wound irrigation. His curiosity pricks sharper than the sewing needle in your kit. Did Badu Khan's surgeons really stitch men back together with horsehair? You nod, snipping charred felt away from a burn. Historians still argue whether European field hospitals copied Mongol triage tactics or just took credit. The sheep bleats as you apply pressure, its breath warm and clover-scented against your sleeve. Dawn finds you grinding dried nightshade into a migraine poultice for the head herder. His wife insists you take a live chicken, its feet bound with red string. You decline, settling for a fistful of sulfur crystals from their hot spring. The medicine bag hangs lighter now, emptied of comfrey balm and beetle shell powder, yet new weight tugs your shoulders, the eldest herder's parting whisper. They say Cuchulain herself carried battle salves in her boot heels. You snort, adjusting the mare's girth strap. Reality check. History's warrior princess probably didn't treat sheep pink eye. Still, the compliment lingers like good smoke as you ascend the scree slope. Your thumbs find old blisters along the pouch's seams, each healed ridge mapping past emergencies. A flash of scarlet catches your eye, mushrooms sprouting where the herder's campfire stood. Fly agaric, toxic, unless boiled by experts. You pocket 3 caps for emergencies requiring visions over healing. The mare flicks her tail at a gadfly, her hooves crushing wild garlic underfoot. The air smells like a salad no one should eat. You hum the matriarch's anti-poison rhyme, its lyrics questionable, but rhythmic. By noon, you're elbow deep in a trader's infected molar, his camel train stranded by burst abscesses. Payment comes in silk scraps and bad advice about dragon bone remedies. You swap his clove oil for a warning about mercury-based cures sold in Karakoram markets. Sunset stains your bandages peach pink. The medicine bag, now stuffed with lichen, and a suspiciously labeled vial, smells like defeat and mint. You rinse your hands in a creek, startled by how the water soothes your own rope burns. The mare naps, standing her legs locked in that uncanny horse sleep. You smear yarrow paste on your blisters, biting back curses. Some healer you are, forgetting self-care until blood soaks your socks. A wolf's howl pierces the dusk too close. Your fingers stray to the last vial, wolf fat salve for joint pain, poetic justice in greasing your own tendons with predator lard. The mare wakes, snorting derisively as you rub the gloop into your knees. Stars emerge like needle pricks in felt. Your breath fogs the medicine bag's clasps, tarnished silver wolves chasing their tails. Somewhere beneath the steppe, buried shamans chuckle at your cargo of hope and desperation. You count remaining supplies, muttering inventory like a prayer. 12 birch bark bandages, 7 mallow root slices. One question: why do healers always star in their own tragedies? The mare headbutts your satchel, freeing a sugar cube stolen from the Silk Road trader. Clever girl. You split the crusted lump, letting sweetness dissolve grumpiness and herbal bitterness. Dawn finds you weaving garlic stems into her mane, a living pest repellent. The medicine bag sways, its contents rearranged by necessity and exhaustion. Somewhere ahead, more hands will beg your dwindling cures. Your palms still smell of sulfur and sheep's tears. You kneel by the firelight, blistered fingers tracing shredded paper edges. The arrow maker's daughter scowls at your suturing job, her fletching knife scoring lines in frozen mud. Your quill patching's sloppier than a drunken scribe's. She grunts, flipping a half-repaired arrow across your knees. Its white tailhawk feathers catch the flame glow, each vein trimmed with obsessive symmetry. You inhale glue fumes from her bubbling pot, sturgeon bladder simmering beside birch sap. When experts debate Mongol archery, they obsess over draw weights, never mention the fish stink glue that held empires together. She snatches your mangled scroll scrap, a military dispatch chewed by marmots. Her knife tip prods your pathetic character strokes. Uyghur script requires discipline. She mimics her impression of your teaching voice, merciless. You retaliate by adjusting her feather alignment, left helix instead of right. Historians still argue whether helical fletching stabilized arrows or just looked cool rotating mid-flight. The daughter huffs, reversing your correction with practiced twists. Your letters lean like drunk camels, she declares. Fair, you'd mendied that dispatch by moonlight after treating a concussed yak. Your brush hovers over torn parchment, charcoal ink thickened with sheep fat. She watches sideways as you reconstruct the word ambush from tooth-marked fragments. The fire pops, startling her into dropping a martenfur binding. You pocket it. Future scroll. Repairs demand bribes. My father used wolf whiskers for brush tips. She mutters, splitting a goose quill. Quirky fact. Some Mongol scribes swore predator hairs held ink better. You test her theory on a scrap. The wolf hair brush snags like a guilty conscience. Midnight passes in this blur, mending and bickering, trading blisters for paper cuts. She teaches you to wrap feather veins with wet sinew, shrink wrap tight as a drumhead when dried. You show her how to stipple ink for missing phrases, dots forming words through absence. The campfire dies to embers. Your repaired scroll lies between you, its message nonsensical, but structurally sound. Better than new, you lie, she snorts, tossing a perfectly fletched arrow into your lap. Its red and white veins spin mockingly in the dark. Dawn reveals your collaboration, a dozen arrows fletched with miswritten poetry, scroll edges mendied with feather glue. The daughter stuffs her saddlebags, snagging your last ink vial as trade. Next time, she warns, bring better jokes and less crooked letters. Your mare eyes the feather-adorned scroll tube with suspicion. You hum the matriarch's parchment-mending rhyme, its meter clashing with the rhythm of receding hoofbeats. Somewhere ahead, another torn message waits, caught between history's teeth. The fish glue lingers under your nails, stubborn as regret. You squint at your saddlebag map, its edges still reeking of sturgeon glue. Empire maps boast fortress symbols. Your version blooms with berry clusters and stolen honeycombs. A vermilion X marks where wild onions outrank any general's tomb. The trick, memorizing terrain through hunger. That patch of lichen you nibbled last autumn, now drawn as a six-pointed star. Historians gush over Pax Mongolicas, trade routes. Never the snack breaks, sustaining diplomacy. Your mare swerves toward scrub brush. She knows these unofficial rest stops better than you. Ahead, 3 envoys argue over rations. You toss them a bark strip map dotted with serviceberry thickets. Their translator squints. This says sour, but edible beside the Khan's seal. You shrug. Survival trumps calligraphy. Quirky thing, Mongol messengers allegedly used fermented mare's milk as map preservative. The lactic tang supposedly repelled silverfish. You've tested it. Now your saddlebag smells like a drunken dairy cart. Your detour takes you through a salt pan's edge, where crusted earth whispers of ancient seabeds. A Kashgar merchant once traded you saffron for directions to a fig grove. Historians still argue whether the Yasa legal codes included foraging rights, or if everyone just pretended not to steal peaches. At dusk, you sketch a new landmark, a hollow log stocked with smoked jerky. Future riders will bless your name between greasy bites. The mare nickers approval her breath, steaming over your official berry annotations. Someone carved a crude phallus over your prized ginger root coordinates. You add a hat, making it dignified vandalism. Laughter echoes through large trees, the road's true compass. You tuck the map away, its secrets, humming quieter than war drums. Somewhere, a diplomat licks honey off imperial decrees, your travel notes staining history's margins. You rub frostbite salve across your cheeks, the north wind gnawing through 3 layers of felt. Stars pulse overhead, not the great bear's familiar scoop, but patterns only writers name. That jagged cluster, Kublai's lost arrow, the winking trio. 3 stallions kicked the moon. Your mare's ears swivel, guided by a celestial map etched in campfire tailies. Genghis Khan's messengers supposedly navigated via the Weaver Girl star, an early compass anchored to heaven's dome. You're less poetic, naming a crooked asterism. That time Bolode broke his ankle after a drunk courier. Historians still argue whether the steppes had formal constellations or just tactical nicknames for not dying. A raven feather drifts into your lap, its quill pointing northwest. You press it behind your ear like an astrolabe. 10 years ago, you'd mock this superstition. Now you whisper thanks to Otkin Bayar. His ghost star glows faintly above the horizon, a rider who vanished during the 79 blizzard. The logic sound. Corpses fertilize grass. Grass feeds sheep. Sheep become tallow for signal fires. Smoke ascends to join the stars. Your canteen sloshes with pomegranate vinegar, a trick for night vision. The berries came from a Uyghur herbalist who warned don't marry someone prettier than their horse. You spit a crimson arc, startling a kangaroo rat. Mongol envoys carried salt licks as stellar offerings, though you suspect that's just scholars romanticizing livestock snacks. The debate lingers as you dismount, checking your mare's hooves for ice chunks. See that blue giant? You point her nose skyward. Almsgiver's beacon. My brother swore it shines brighter when smugglers lie. She sneezes, a verdict on family folklore. Dawn bleeds across the sky, washing away your starry guideposts. You count 7 vultures circling a dune, nature's less elegant navigation aid. The Codex Cumanicus mentions using bird flocks as compasses. Or was that a margarita-induced hallucination after eating rancid yak butter? You unwrap a frozen dumpling, staring at the fading stars. Rumors claim Khanate relay stations buried celadon bowls upside down, their glaze mimicking moonlight for midnight riders. Seems excessive when a vodka-soaked rag on a stick worked fine. Your eyelids droop, the saddle creaking a lullaby. Last week's epiphany floats back that every courier becomes part of the sky's machinery. Tendons calcify into comet trails. Breath fogs join the Milky Way's haze. The mare plods onward, her horseshoes clicking against stones that remember dead men's names. A shooting star gutters out near the broken saddle constellation. You make a wish involving hot baths and fewer wolves. Two truths endure. No rider conquers the dark, but you can borrow its teeth to light the way. The mare's nostrils flare at ash, cold campfire scars peeking through snow. You kneel, fingers brushing blackened stones, arranged like a child's teeth. 4 circles, traveling merchants, or a postal relay team avoiding tax collectors. Either way, someone burned birch bark here. That sweet sharp stink clings to your scarf. A rusted kettle lies half buried, its belly crusted with fermented leaves. You chip the gunk with a thumbnail, steep it in melted snow. First sip tastes like despair and old boots. Second sip reveals iron and the tang of scribe's ink. Relay stations, boiled dispatches, with tea disguising secrets from bandits. Historians still argue whether couriers drank the evidence or just used brews as invisible ink solvents. Your boothiel skids over frozen ruts, wagon tracks preserved like dinosaur fossils. They curve southwest, smart, avoided the sinking sands near Karakoram. 3 grooves mean ox cart, not the twin streaks of war chariots. You pocket a shattered wheel pin, its bronze gone green as a jealousy-fueled tattoo. That's when you spot the ribs. Goat, not human, based on the horn nubs, and Mayer Baturdines. 7 lecture about bone porosity. Scavengers picked it clean, but the skull grins up at you. Teeth stained beetle nut red. Quirky considering those nuts don't grow within 500 miles. Unless someone traded medicinal pulp from southern jungles, a tax collector's bribe, a lover's keepsake. You trace cracked mud beside the carcass, finding boot prints fossilized mid-stride. Size 8, narrow arch, woman's, or a young rider not yet done growing. The Codex Cumanicus never mentions footprint analysis. 2 busy sketching evil spirits shaped like teapots. Wind shifts, carrying the reek of rancid butter from your saddlebag. Time to move. But first, the kettle ritual. Tip the dregs onto flat stone. Tea leaves cling, forming a lopsided eagle. Or maybe a very ambitious duck. Either way, its beak points northwest. You follow because what's the alternative? Trusting that mangy marmot's judgment. Hooves crunch over lichen-crusted rocks. Each step echoing the Yuan dynasty's postal code. 30 li between markers, 10 between water checks. Modern scholars fawn over those rules, as if ancient writers didn't ignore them daily. That cairn ahead, rocks stacked precisely 19 fists high. Official mileage marker, or someone's crude statue of a grumpy yak. Your mare halts, sniffing air that smells like wet dog and juniper. Another campsite. This one has charred bones arranged in a spiral, and a hemp sandal wedged under a rock. Size 8, narrow arch. You pocket it, already imagining the reunion scene. Hey, you lose a shoe. Also, is your goat okay? Twilight bleeds, indigo across the steppe, your shadow stretching into a giant's warped silhouette. Time to test the leaf reader's cringiest theory. You scrawl a message on lambskin, dunk it in the last tea dregs. Hold it to the moon, faint characters shimmer, a recipe for pickled radishes, or instructions for bribing Tibetan border guards. Hard to tell, with half the vowels dissolved. The mare snorts her breath, frosting into a perfect smoke ring. You mimic her, blowing a wobbly oval. Two truths emerge. Nobody masters steppe navigation without going a little mad. And every abandoned campsite is a library with scorched pages. You nudge the mare onward, her ears tilted toward star charts only foals understand. Somewhere ahead, a birch tree grows through an inverted celadon bowl. Its roots will cradle a tea-stained scroll from the reign of Kublai Khan. Guardians say the ink still smells of pomegranate vinegar and poor decisions. You'll add your own message, scratching it sideways in the glaze before letting the north wind erase your name. The snapped rein dangles like a hanged man's tongue, its frayed ends whispering tales of panic. You kneel, plucking a horsehair strand still threaded with sweat salt. Some couriers curse broken gear. You hum a minor key and twist the fibers. Friction births sound, a low thrumming that vibrates your molars. Turns out Morse code's great-great-grandma was a Mongolian with spare tack. Your mare's ears pivot, tracking the drone's echo across frozen gullies. Legend says Kublai's spies used lute strings to mask battle orders in love ballads. Historians still argue whether that's fact, or just music scholars romanticizing their grant proposals. The Codex Cumanicus definitely mentions singing ropes, though they could have meant haunted bridges. 3 twists tighten the makeshift lyre, your thumbnail staining blue from dyed leather. Test pluck. The note slices moonlight into silver shards. Distant wolves pause mid-howl. Even predators respect a decent B-flat. You etch warnings onto birch bark, then press it against the vibrating string. Hum, and watch glyphs dance like charmed snakes. Sunrise will bleach the message, but tonight it hums along your chosen ridge. A marmot pops up, whiskers twitching at the frequency. Yeah, civilization's overrated. Tell your cousins near Karakoram. The lyre wire snaps mid-sentence. Of course, divinity hates a cliffhanger. You pocket the broken bit, already picturing Volga merchants threading it through akapas. Let them wonder why the melody tastes of hoof blisters and unread love letters. Rule number 87 of Steppe Couriers. Never let tools die. Just repurpose their ghosts. A frozen dung pellet pings your shoulder, the orphan's signature greeting. You turn, eyebrow arched, to 7 grubby faces clutching mane-tuft brushes. The tallest brags about their courier crowbar, a spoon bent during last week's mutton stew riot. Rule number 12 of the orphan relay. Resourcefulness trumps pedigree every damn time. The gelding nickers, recognizing tiny hands that'll currycomb his winter coat without pinching. You hoist the youngest rider onto your saddle, their legs swinging inches above the stirrups. Mongol postal stations routinely recruited war orphans, their light frames preserving overworked mounts. Historical scrolls confirm it, but none mention the licorice root bribes to keep kids quiet during border crossings. One girl presents her map, a sheep's shoulder blade etched with berry juice landmarks. The ravines haunted by a sheep herder's ghost, she whispers. We fed him curds. He showed us a shortcut through the scree. Skepticism dies when she pulls a wolf's milk tooth from her sleeve. Fair enough, even spirits respect a good dairy offering. Nightfall finds you trading riddles for rabbit jerky. The oldest orphan recounts their prize discovery, a gutted postal wagon turned eagle's nest. Inside, a stash of 13th century love letters, wax sealed with horse blood. Historians still argue whether the crimson blobs were romantic symbols or just some couriers nosebleed mid-message. You lean closer, silently noting the imprint of a signet ring lost at Urumqi last spring. Dawn reveals the flaw in child labor. They're terrifyingly efficient. Your usual 3-hour tack check evaporates into 19 minutes of relentless small talk. Why do postal horses live longer? A boy asks, scrubbing salt stains from your bridle. Before you can deflect, he beams, because they know all the shortcuts to the afterlife. The gelding rolls his eyes, clearly debating a strategic kick. By midday, you're the student. They demonstrate the sparrow method, using thrush feathers to tickle stubborn mules into moving. Their secret weapon, ancient Uyghur lullabies sung through kazoo-like horse bones. You try humming along, earning a rotten apple to the temple. Stay in your lane, elder, snickers the spoonbender. Touché. The real test comes at the Hui River crossing. Currents, not ice flows, churning up dagger-shaped shards. The orphans link hands, forming a shivering human chain to calm the horses. One slips, you dive, grasping their sash as frozen water soaks your boots. They emerge clutching a glass vial of peacock blue pigment, likely looted from some Silk Road wreck. For the victory banners. They cough because kids prioritize sparkle over survival instincts. Campfire confessionals reveal their grim expertise. Old Hoof always limps before hailstorms, offers the bone kazoo virtuoso. Another mimes plucking lice from her scalp. If they jump east, ambush ahead. West means safe grazing. You file this intel beside military tactics learned from drunk kitten mercenaries. Their piece de resistance, a saddlebag redesigned with stolen yurt felt and processed yak cheese. It's waterproof and snackable in emergencies. Reeking, absolutely genius. Genghis would have promoted them to Navy admirals. You trade your last honeycomb for the blueprint, though the stench alone could deter wolf packs. As stars pierce the wool-dark sky, a tiny voice interrupts your route calculations. Do we get proper burials if the ice cracks? The fire pops. 7 sets of eyes reflect flames waiting. You toss a frozen curd into the embers. Nah, they'll carve your names on a pregnant mare's ribs, so you're reborn as hooves and open step. Relief uncoils their shoulders. Kids shouldn't understand poetry this bitter. Yet here we are. They've memorized every mile marker by sunrise, chattering about progesterone levels in postal mares, and which generals overseason their lamb. You leave them giggling at the next relay station, their pockets full of salt and raisins and your stolen fish hooks. The gelding flicks his tail in farewell, already missing their merciless brushwork. 2 valleys later, you find their parting gift, a felt doll strapped to your saddlebag. Its braided mane matches yours perfectly. The belly hides a note in Sogdian script. Don't die, we're out of jerky. Beneath, a crude map of the afterlife's shortcut. You tuck it beside Kublai's edicts, because who knows which holds more weight. Birch bark crackles against your ribs. The orphan's felt doll, now sharing space with empire-shaping parchment. A new burden arrives at the Kushluk relay station. No imperial seal, just a 12-year-old stable hand miming a heartbreak pantomime. You recognize his flushed cheeks. First love courier duty. The package. A single steel hairpin wrapped in bark, its tip carved into a swan mid-flight. Before you can refuse, he bolts, leaving hoof grease fingerprints on your sleeve. 16th century chronicles mention noblewomen using hairpins as love tokens. But this one reeks of bureaucracy. The swan's eyes are lapis lazuli stolen from Karakoram's temple mosaics. You'd bet your best mare on it. Hidden compartment. Obviously, it takes 3 failed attempts and a near-poked tongue to release the latch. Inside, a scroll thinner than cicada wings. You unroll it against a bridle's sweat-stained leather. Juniper berry ink glimmers, a plea from Torjin, Ojdai Khan's favorite concubine. Her handwriting slopes west toward her imprisoned poet-lover in Samarkand. The verses themselves, classic forbidden longing. Your absence unravels my braids knot by midnight black knot. You snort, trust royals to outsource their overdramatic elopements to underpaid messengers. The real kicker, she sealed it with a thumbprint in fermented mare's milk glaze. Historians still brighten lecture halls, debating whether these dairy adhesives contained hidden messages or just smelled better than glue. You pocket the evidence, knowing this'll mean extra corpse bribes if the secret hunters intercept you. Your guide for this idiocy, a pathfinder eunuch who communicates entirely through falconry terms. He clicks twice, meaning ford the river. Hisses once, avoid the cliffside. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a signal for ambush by jealous husband's guards. Steel sings against scabbards as 5 horsemen emerge, their bridles draped with Torjin's personal colors. Awkward. The lead rider demands your saddlebags. You offer pickled turnips instead. Negotiation fails. They'll soon learn that imperial concubines underpay their mercenaries. 3 arrows find thigh gaps in their armor. The other 2 flee when your gelding farts dramatically. The eunuch trills approval. Apparently defecation as distraction is a recognized falconry tactic. Nightfall brings you to the poet's prison, a 3-story pleasure villa stocked with peacock feather quilts. Guards pretend to check your credentials, really just angling for gossip. One offers smoked eel for details, about Torgin's beauty mark placements. You counter with counterfeit moon, phase charts, the original medieval clickbait. Inside, the poet's composing odes to a spiderweb. He lights up when you produce Torgin's scroll, then frowns at her cursive. She's using the old Uyghur alphabet, 3rd century romantic code. He traces a line with wine-stained fingers. This stanza about melting snowdrifts actually lists the Khan's troop movements near Kiev. Ah, suddenly, the hairpin's urgency makes sense. You are smuggling military intel, not sexting materials. The poet scribbles a reply using his own hair, plucked strand by silver strand. His message: a recipe for gooseberry pudding, allegedly containing mobilization orders for rebel forces. Historians still argue whether these culinary codes were strategic masterstrokes or just aristocrats being pretentious. Dawn finds you retracing your path with twice the paranoia. Every crow's caw sounds like an informant. The eunuch develops a tic, turning every rustling bush into an assassination plot. You consider tossing the hairpin into a marmot hole until remembering the orphan's map of the afterlife, their scribbled shortcut to paradise, suspiciously resembles a tavern's wine cellar. Delivering the reply requires penetrating a jur camped beside a dried-up river. Torgin's attendants scour you for weapons, confiscating even your earwax spoon. The concubine herself lounges on polar bear pelts, snacking on lotus seeds, while a bard sings her exploits. She unrolls the poet's hair scroll without a glance. Good. My husband's men will intercept this within hours. Wait, what? She grins, teeth stained black from beetle nuts. Poor darling Ojde needs victories to feel relevant. Her nail shears snap, slicing off the hairpin's swan head. Let him catch your treachery, then chase shadows, while I secure the southern trade routes. You stare, realizing you're the cheapest pawn in her marital games. Payment arrives as promised, 3 jade hairpins and permission to loot your unconscious eunuch. You pocket the greenest pin, designed to smuggle arsenic into wine cups. The orphans will adore it. Outside, songbirds argue over a scrap of the poet's love letter. One flies east toward Kiev's bloodied snowdrifts. Another west to Samarkand's silk-draped cages. The gelding nudges your shoulder, more interested in stolen lotus seeds than empires. You feed him Torgin's beetle nuts instead. Might as well experiment with cavalry stimulants. As his trot gains a frantic edge, you wonder how historians will frame this mess. Strategic marriage destabilization, poetic rebellion. Either way, your saddlebags now hold proof that love letters weigh less than dust, and steer wars better than swords. Your gelding's hooves kick up ochre dust, each step crunching cracked earth like burnt sugar. 5 villages now, their sheep gnawing thornbush roots where rivers once ran. A girl blocks your path, her braids strung with hollowed sheep vertebrae. Rainmaker's debt comes due. She chants, holding up a water skin bloated with, "Is that frog spawn?" Yam alarm station records confirm messengers often traded supplies. But you draw the line at amphibian tariffs. She pouts her bargaining chip, shifting to weatherlore scrolls stolen from a monastery's forbidden shelf. Fine. You hand over 2 water sacks, their contents sloshing like liquid gold. Her payment, a shaman's diagram of cloud types, with helpful notes like beware the sheep-shaped ones. Turns out the real currency, here's desperation. Farmers ring your camp each dawn, offering fermented camel cheese for rain prayers. One elder demonstrates a drought dance involving badger pelts and a lot of ankle bells. Historians still debate whether Mongol cloud divination stemmed from steppe shamans or borrowed techniques from captured Song dynasty meteorologists. You pocket his wind chime made of wolf teeth just in case. The quirky part. Villagers swear by tied-off sheep bladders as rain gauges. Inflate one, hang it from a pole, wait for humidity to tighten the skin. Yours bursts unexpectedly, drenching a nosy marmot. Good sign. They cheer, ignoring your soaked boots. 3 days wasted teaching cloud patterns to teenagers, their fingers tracing sky dragons in the dirt. You improvise mnemonics. Cumulus look like Genghis's sheep. Cirrus are his wife's embroidery threads. They giggle, scribbling notes on cured horsehide. One prodigy notices mare's tail clouds drifting east, their wispy trails pointing toward storm fronts. You feign pride while mentally calculating lost travel time. The big finale, a rain-calling ritual at the salt flats. Everyone brings essences, crushed lightning scorched grass, snowmelt from sacred peaks, a suspiciously modern-looking barometer. You contribute stolen beetle nuts for luck. The shamaness lights a dung fire, smoke curdling into twisted columns. She chants, you fake a sneeze, thunder rumbles on cue. Coincidence, the first raindrops hit like thrown pebbles. Chaos ensues. Children dance in the mud, elders scramble to place buckets, your gelding attempts to drink a puddle's reflection. Someone hands you a fermented mare's milk toast to the Khan's ponyboy savior. You spit it discreetly into a gratitude urn, its contents already buzzing with drunk beetles. Dawn finds the village green again, puddles evaporating under a relentless sun. Your new students wave sheep bladder kites as you gallop east. The shamaness final warning haunts your pack. A jar labeled emergency snow, which smells suspiciously like crushed limestone. 10 li later, you spot the lead gray clouds she predicted. The first hailstone nails your kneecap, nature's invoice for meddling. You kick the gelding into a jarring trot, his ears flattened against the wind. Somewhere behind, a teenager's voice carries, see, the sheep bladder never lies. The storm's icy breath down your neck suggests otherwise. The mare stumbles her left foreleg, bending at a sickening angle. You leap from the saddle before she falls, knees hitting hardpan, still pocked with hailstones. Her nostrils flare wide, puffing steam into air sharp with the smell of wet sage. No broken bones, just tendons frayed from decades of hard service. You press your forehead to her damp neck, counting each ragged breath like prayer beads. Foaling grounds lie 8 li northwest, where generations of postal mounts returned to birth and die. Every courier knows the way, even in blizzards. Historians still argue whether these sites were sacred pastures or just practical compost for nutrient-poor soil. You murmur commands, the mare limping gamely behind. Her one sleek coat hangs loose, ribs pressing against skin like fingers through silk. Night falls, wind carrying the musk of birthing tents long rotted away. The mare halts, nostrils quivering at remembered scents. You untie her bridle, its brass bells silenced long ago. Remember Kenti I pass, you whisper, rubbing the white star between her eyes. She huffs, as if scoffing at your nostalgia for that 6-day blizzard run. By moonrise, she lies on a patch of brittle grass. Foals born here were said to inherit the speed of spring floods. Your fingers find the old scar on her flank, where a wolf's tooth met your dagger. The wound that nearly ended her career, if not for that drunken farrier's innovative ant suture technique. Anecdotal, but you swear crushed beetles still sparkle in the scar tissue. Dawn stains the horizon, her breathing slows to shallow sips of air. You place your last 3 honey-stiffened barley cakes by her muzzle. She ignores them, her clouded eyes fixed on some distant pasture. When her chest stills, you press both palms against her ribs. No heartbeat, just the creak of cooling flesh. Digging tools materialize, left for this purpose, beneath a cairn of polished stirrups. The spade's handle bears 27 notches, one for each mare you've buried here. The soil parts easily, sun-warmed dirt, giving way to cooler clay. Sweat blurs your vision, or maybe it's the flies already gathering. 3 handspans down, your blade strikes something smooth. A horse skull grins up, its nasal cavity stuffed with sprouted barley. Quirky burial rites whisper through the dirt, ancestors believing grain-filled skulls nourished new grass. You add the mare's favorite brush, its bristles worn to nubs from currying winter coats. The grave accepts her with a sigh, soil hugging her frame like a foal, returned to womb earth. You stamp down the mound, each step echoing the hammer stomp rituals of distant horse lords. Wind scatters dandelion fluff across the fresh-turned dirt, their seeds hooking into your sweat-damp sleeves. No marker, just a single hoofprint pressed into the mud with your water skin. Let the next courier add their own. You remount your gelding, his head drooping, as if sensing the loss. 2 days later, passing herders point to green shoots already piercing the burial mound. They'll name the grass messenger's lace, though botanists will later dismiss it as common fescue. Dust devils whirl where your mare fell, spirits dancing in the heat haze. Your gelding flicks his tail, eager to outrun the memory. You let him gallop, wind stealing the moisture from your eyes. Behind, something rustles through brittle grass, perhaps newborn foals testing their legs, or bones settling into their final rest. Your fingers spasm against the wool blanket, clawing at reins, that haven't rested there for 17 summers. The ghost grip lingers, palm ridges, remembering every frayed stitch of leather. Outside your yurt, dawn paints the steppe in honeyed light. You inhale, expecting the bite of saddle sores and birch smoke. Instead, your lungs flood with the bitter tang of arthritis liniment. A caravan rumbles past, their ox carts stacked with plastic water jugs. Teenage riders dart between trucks, smartphones strapped to their thighs like miniature saddlebags. One waves, his neon sneakers flashing against stirrups. You lift a hand in greeting, knuckles knotted from gripping imaginary bridles. Historians still argue whether Mongol couriers covered 200 miles daily, or if those numbers inflated to terrify enemies. You know the truth lived in snapped tendons, in groaning knees that predict rain better than any weather app. Your granddaughter leaves textbooks open on the rug, pages glowing with maps of the Yam postal routes. She's circled a paragraph about relay stations, ink blotting the word defunct. You trace the faded scar across your thigh, where a Soviet-era fence post tore through flesh during a midnight detour. They forgot the song, you mutter. She doesn't look up from her phone. At the market, your hip joints count each step in Lee. Vendors hawk herbal remedies where horse meat once hung glass jars labeled in Korean and Mandarin. A tourist's drone whirs overhead, its shadow flitting across your face like a gerfalcon. You flick your wrist, a decade's muscle memory twitching for a bowstring that isn't there. The teenager piloting it laughs, unaware his toy mimics the kamikaze drones of ancient Chinese fire balloons. Rain sheets down, flooding the streets with liquid static. You stand beneath an awning, nose wrinkling at the reek of wet polyester. A delivery scooter skids past, its insulated box sporting a winged horse logo. The rider's uniform bears your old roots seal stylized into corporate clip art. You chuckle, remembering the bureaucrat who tried replacing live mounts with motorcycles. His steel stallions bogged down in spring mud, while your mare pranced through quicksand like it was dancefloor. Your knees crack as you kneel by the bathhouse's gutter, plucking a fledgling grass shoot from a crack. Messenger's lace, still thriving in concrete jungles. Botanists insist it's invasive crabgrass, but you've seen its roots break through Soviet tank treads, crush a leaf between thumb and forefinger. The scent catapults you to moonlit relays. Hard to explain to your physical therapist why these weeds line your windowsill. Sleep comes fitfully, your spine rejecting memory foam's false plains. Dreams resurrect the percussion of hooves, the creak of 100 saddles breathing. You wake reaching for water skins, only to fumble with insulin pens. Dawn finds you humming a herder's tune, the melody warped by decades and dental implants. The nursing home's minivan smells of disinfectant and boiled cabbage. A new orderly straps you in, his hands soft from app-based errands. As the engine roars, your toes curl against floor mats. Old ligaments scream to dig heels into galloping flanks. You close your eyes, listening for hoofbeats beneath radio static. The road hums back, a poor imitation of the earth's pulse. They've paved over the falling grounds, erecting a lithium refinery that glows green at night. Security drones buzz as you press a palm to the chain link fence. Somewhere beneath smokestacks, your mare's bones nourish gradients of concrete and stray voltage. A guard offers you a laminated visitor pass, its barcode gleaming like bridal bells. You decline your access rights etched in scar tissue and silt. Monsoon winds howl through the city, carrying the shrieks of unsecured patio umbrellas. Your wheelchair creaks, its rhythm syncing with the storm's tempo. Through rain-streaked glass, you watch a delivery boy sheltering beneath a bus stop. He's cradling his damaged scooter, lips moving in what might be a curse or a prayer. You raise one trembling hand, saluting the latest recruit in an unbroken chain. The storm swallows the gesture, leaving your fingers gloved in twilight. Your breath steadies, matching the patter of rain against glass. Somewhere beyond the refinery lights, a lone cricket sings through cracked pavement. Messenger's lace trembles where your mare once grazed, roots cradling fragments of hoofprints. You tilt your head, smiling at the phantom weight of a bridle now borne by the wind. The bathhouse's gutter cradles new shoots, each leaf unfurling like a scroll. You hum the herder's tune, its notes frayed but familiar, as twilight softens the clinic's sterile glare. The orderly's radio static fades, replaced by the murmur of long dismantled relay stations. They've hung wind chimes near your bed, plastic baubles clinking in air-conditioned drafts. Your granddaughter texts a photo, her scooter parked beside a history museum's diorama of your youth. Dust motes swirl where you once counted stars, now diffusing into the glow of security lasers. Sleep arrives as a slow tide, no longer fighting memory foam's embrace. Dreams carry the creak of oak saddles, not as echoes, but as lullabies. Dawn finds your hand resting open, palm upward, cradling light that tastes of steppe grass. When the minivan returns, you let the seatbelt hug your ribs like a rider's sash. The refinery's hum becomes distant thunder, a storm your joints no longer fear. Through half-closed lids, you watch the delivery boy's scooter skid through puddles. His laughter blends with the whir of drones, a new breed of hoofbeat. You press your forehead to the window, cool glass merging with the memory of morning dew. Somewhere, a foal's ghost nickers beneath asphalt. Your sigh misting the pain becomes the steam of a long-ago campfire. Darkness gathers gentle as a mare's breath. The chain-link fence dissolves into starlight. Your fingers uncurl, releasing reins you never truly dropped. The earth keeps its rhythm, even as your pulse slows to match it.